Chapter 1147. The sudden change in the battle attracted the attention of the surrounding spectators once again. However, to everyone's astonishment, the person who attacked was none other than the patriarch of the Jiang family, Jiang Wen. What's going on? The pseudo-saint experts of the three dynasties all frowned. It wouldn't be a good thing if the five aristocratic families had internal strife at this time. Jiang Wen, what are you doing? Patriarch Jiang, what do you mean by this? The pseudo-saint experts of the other aristocratic families all changed their expressions and couldn't help but shout. The hesitation in Jiang Wen's eyes turned into determination. Since he had already made his choice, he wouldn't regret it. Immediately, Jiang Wen shouted, "Everyone of the Jiang family, listen to my order. Cooperate with the Sword Dynasty to resist the enemy." This. Wu Hongyan glanced at Jiang Wen in surprise. Was the Jiang family rebelling? On the other hand, Confuzi took a deep look at Jiang Wen, with a trace of relief in his old eyes. He knew that Jiang Wen was the patriarch of the aristocratic families who didn't want to start a war. In addition, Jiang Wen was friends with the proud divine continent and Yi Tianqing. Also, Yi Guchen once saved Jiang Fengmian's life in the sacred dynasty's treasure. Jiang Fengmian also tried his best to persuade Jiang Wen not to join in the evil. Due to all these reasons, Jiang Wen finally made his choice. Patriarch, this, beside Jiang Wen, the four pseudo-saint elders of the Jiang family looked at each other. To be honest, they didn't know what was going on. However, except for the deceased vice-patriarch Jiang Wu, the rest of the Jiang family didn't want to betray the Sword Dynasty. Therefore, without much hesitation, the four elders of the Jiang family all stood on Jiang Wen's side. The venerables and divine palace experts of the Jiang family also moved to the Sword Dynasty's camp. Seeing the Jiang family's rebellion, the Sword Dynasty also accepted it. Because at this moment, one more person meant one more force. Below, outside the Sword Emperor city, a handsome blue-haired young man in a blue robe led a group of Jiang family members to the Sword Dynasty's camp. Looking at Jian Jinghong, Mu Xingzu, and the other sword sons, the young man revealed an apologetic expression as he said, "I'm sorry for taking so long to make a decision. You guys wouldn't be unwelcoming of me, right?" "Ha, Jiang Fengmian, welcome back." Jian Jinghong laughed. Although Jiang Fengmian had been in the aristocratic family's camp, he had never caused any harm to the prodigies of the itinerant cultivators' camp. He had even stepped forward to save Mu Xingzu in the sacred dynasty's treasure. Therefore, Jian Jinghong and the others did not hold any grudges against Jiang Fengmian. In fact, Jiang Fengmian had definitely contributed a lot to the rebellion of the Jiang family. "At least you have some conscience, but, welcome back," Mu Xingzu said with a smile. Jiang Fengmian nodded heavily. Looking at the Jiang family who had rebelled, the millions of martial artists watching from afar were all surprised. They did not expect that this war would have so many twists and turns. First, the Monster King came to help. Then, the Jiang family rebelled. It was as if the heavens did not want the Sword Dynasty to fall. However, most people were still not optimistic about the Sword Dynasty. Because the armies and experts of the three dynasties had not moved at all. Hua Tianyue looked at this scene with an indifferent expression from beginning to end. He had expected this, but he did not expect Jiang Wen to really defect from the aristocratic family's camp. "Jiang Wen, do you know that you have made the stupidest decision of your life?" Hua Tianyue's face was covered with a layer of frost. At this moment, anyone with a discerning eye could see that the Sword Dynasty was on the verge of destruction. The Jiang family's choice of the Sword Dynasty at this juncture was undoubtedly an extremely stupid and unwise act. Jiang Wen said with a faint smile, "Maybe, but if I don't do this, then I will feel guilty for the rest of my life, and I will not have the face to face the ancestors of the Jiang family after I die." Back then, the Jiang family had joined the Sword Dao Alliance, and they were the most loyal family to the Sword Dao Alliance. Jiang Wen did not want to smear the glory of his predecessors. "Oh, there's nothing to talk about. Then your Jiang family will be destroyed together with the Sword Dao Alliance." Hua Tianyue said no more. He and the other pseudo-saints of the aristocratic families once again attacked Jiang Wen, Wu Hongyan, Confuzi, and the others. With the Jiang family's help, the Sword Dao Alliance's situation was slightly better. However, Hua Tianyue's participation erased this advantage. Because Hua Tianyue's strength was too strong. Rumble. Just as the war was reaching its climax, thousands of lightning bolts in the sky gathered into a thunder tide that tore the void and surged down from the sky. And in the depths of the Sword Emperor city, a figure went up against the thunder tribulation, as if he wanted to compete with the heavens. Oh no, is he going to succeed? The pseudo-saints of the three dynasties, who had been sitting calmly on the fishing platform, suddenly quivered and trembled when they saw this scene. The figure in the thunder tide was without a doubt I Ching. And from the looks of it, there were signs of success. War God Dynasty, listen to my order, charge with me. Without the slightest hesitation, the heroic Marquis waved his arm and led the remaining 4 pseudo-saints of the War God Dynasty, as well as the venerables and divine dwelling experts. People of the Mola Dynasty, kill. The 5 pseudo-saints of the Mola Dynasty also began to move. Tyrannical Saber Dynasty, attack. The pseudo-saints of the Tyrannical Saber Dynasty also attacked at the same time. In the blink of an eye, the armies of the 3 dynasties turned into a tide and charged toward the Sword Emperor city. They wanted to completely kill I Ching before she could successfully pass the Thunder Tribulation. The attack of the 3 dynasties was undoubtedly a devastating blow to the Sword Dynasty. It only took a moment. Large numbers of experts of the Sword Dynasty fell. The 100 or so venerables were also slaughtered at an extremely fast speed. Sword Sons, quickly retreat to the Sword Emperor city. The battle at hand is no longer something you can participate in. Grand Elder Ime of Sacred Cliff College shouted. He was a 9th level venerables expert, second only to the pseudo-saints. But now, the venerables of the 3 dynasties were surging over like a tide, and there was no way he could stop them. Grand Elder Xuanlian, Ling Moyin, Ling Mo Shu, and the others showed signs of struggle and unwillingness in their eyes. Ha! It's the Sword Sons of the Sword Dynasty, kill them. Not far away, more than 10 venerables of the 3 dynasties noticed the situation and immediately charged over. Quickly leave, you are the hope of the Sword Dynasty's new generation. The rise of the Sword Dynasty needs you. Grand Elder Ime flung his sleeves, and a vigorous wave of true qi spread out, throwing Xuanlian, Ling Mo Shu, Jian Jinghong, Mu Xingzu, and the other Sword Sons far away. As for himself, he directly charged toward the dozen or so venerables. Grand Elder Ime. Ling Moyin's eyes were red as she shouted. Children, the future of the Sword Dynasty belongs to you. Grand Elder Ime looked back with a kind expression. He was already on the verge of death and couldn't stop the dozen or so venerables. So the only way was to self-destruct. Boom! Grand Elder Ime self-destructed, and a terrifying shockwave engulfed the dozen or so venerables. Grand Elder Ime. The eyes of many disciples of Sacred Cliff College were red as they shouted angrily. Kill! Kill the Sword Sons of the Sword Dynasty! The Divine Palace experts and venerables of the 3 dynasties all charged toward Jian Jinghong, Ling Mo Shu, and the other Sword Sons. Sword Sons, quickly leave, I'll protect you. Me too. The remaining lords, as well as the disciples of Sacred Cliff College and Tianxian College, all stood in front of Jian Jinghong and the others, forming a wall of flesh and blood. There was endless slaughter, and corpses were everywhere. The Sword Dynasty was extremely tragic. Let's leave quickly. Ling Mo Shu gritted his teeth and turned around to fight back. Damn it, if I participate in the prodigy battlefield in the future, Jian Jinghong will definitely slaughter all the prodigies of the 3 dynasties. Jian Jinghong's hair danced wildly, and his sword intent shook the sky as he swore a blood oath. Chapter 1148. Jian Jinghong and the other Sword Sons all retreated back into the Sword Emperor city, their clothes stained with blood. The Divine Palace experts of the Sword Dynasty were almost all dead. There were less than 30 lords left out of more than 100. Corpses were everywhere, and blood flowed. The entire Sword Emperor city was buried in corpses and blood. In the sky, the battle between false saints was also extremely tragic. The Sword Dynasty had 7 false saints before, and with the addition of Jiang Wen and the other 4 false saints of the Jiang family, there were a total of 12. As a result, there were only 6 people left standing in the sky. Only Confuzi, Wu Hongyan, Jiang Wen, Tugu, and 2 other false saints were still holding on. But they were also covered in scars. In addition, the 2 monster kings, the blue-eyed golden condor and the dark dragon ape, also had some injuries on their bodies. But the physique of monsters was stronger than that of humans, so it didn't matter much. But the monster kings were only here to help. They couldn't be expected to live and die with the Sword Dynasty. Condor, if there is danger, I will take you away. It's not worth it to lose your life for a human dynasty, the blue-eyed golden condor said in human language. Sigh. Little Yi, I've done everything I can. Come back quickly. The divine condor sighed. The dark dragon ape also had the same thought. Although it respected Blackie, it couldn't fight to the death for the Sword Dynasty. Finally, it's almost over. Hua Tianyue sighed. As the armies of the 3 dynasties attacked, the outcome was already decided. Are they still going to resist? The heroic Marshal Marquis and the other false saints of the dynasties all had a trace of disdain on their faces. Everyone, let's attack together and directly wipe them out. What do you think? Hua Tianyue suggested. If a group of false saints attack together, their power might not be able to raise the Sword Emperor city to the ground. It was still possible to raise half of the Sword Emperor city to the ground. Okay. The heroic Marshal Marquis and the other false saints of the 3 dynasties all nodded. The 3 dynasties and the 4 great families, a total of more than 30 false saints, at this moment, were preparing to use their ultimate moves at the same time. It seems that they are ready to decide the outcome with one blow. The Sword Dynasty is finished. Seeing this, the warriors watching the battle in the distance shook their heads. The remaining 6 false saints of the Sword Dynasty would definitely not be able to withstand this move. It's almost over. Meng Zhen stroked his beard, a hint of vengeance flashing in his eyes. In Sword Emperor City, all the remaining warriors raised their heads at this moment and looked at the more than 30 false saints who were preparing their moves. Absolutely no one could withstand that kind of attack. Not to mention a human false saint, perhaps even a monster king with a strong physical body would not be able to survive. Let's go. The blue-eyed golden eagle sensed danger and flapped its wings to soar into the sky. The dark draconic ape also withdrew from the battlefield. As beasts, the only reason they were willing to go this far was because of the divine condor and little He. Everyone, the 6 of us must do our best to block this attack, Confuzi said in a deep voice. That's right. Wu Hongyan exhaled deeply. They understood what this meant. This meant that the 6 false saints might die at the same time. If they fought together, there might be a chance for the others in Sword Sovereign City to survive. But if they did not, Sword Sovereign City would be destroyed. Without any hesitation, Confuzi, Wu Hongyan, and the other 5 false saints stepped into the sky. How could this be? Mr. Dean, they will die. Suki Miyazaki's face was as pale as paper. Thinking of this, she suddenly turned around and knelt down toward the figure bathed in lightning in the depths of Sword Sovereign City. She shouted, Deputy Leader Yi Tianqing, please save the Dean and the others. Suki Miyazaki's call immediately affected everyone. Jian Jingheng knelt down on one knee and shouted, Master, I will help you to destroy all enemies. Deputy Leader Yi Tianqing, please transcend mortality and become a saint, and wipe out all enemies. The warriors of the Sword Dynasty shouted at the figure bathed in lightning in the depths of Sword Sovereign City with bloodshot eyes. Heh! Pathetic ants, they only know how to beg for false hope. Seeing this scene, Hua Tianyue's lips curled into a cold smile. Immediately, more than 30 false saints released their ultimate moves at the same time. In an instant, the spiritual energy between heaven and earth seemed to be boiling. A terrifying tide of destruction spread out in front of more than 30 false saints. This was the ultimate move of more than 30 false saints. The power of that kind of power could be imagined. It was almost comparable to the power of a saint. Rumble. The torrent of moves swept through the void like an apocalypse, causing the surrounding space to collapse inch by inch. In the face of this terrifying power, Jian Fuzi and the others did not move at all. The 6 of them used their methods together and shot out their moves. But compared to that terrifying torrent, the resistance of the Sword Dynasty was as weak as the ripples on the surface of a lake. Is it really over? Lord Sword Sovereign, Heng Yan has done her best. Seeing this scene, Wu Heng Yan closed her beautiful eyes, and her red lips curled up in a bitter smile. All of them had indeed done their best. But, the enemy was too powerful. 1 breath, 2 breaths, 3 breaths, time passed little by little, but Wu Heng Yan found that the pain of tearing her body did not come as she expected. The surrounding world was deathly silent. As if thinking of something, Wu Heng Yan opened her beautiful eyes in disbelief. What did she see? Thunder tide, the endless thunder tide fell from the sky and collided with the apocalyptic torrent of moves. The incomparably terrifying fluctuations directly shattered the surrounding void, revealing pitch-black cracks. The powerful waves of air shattered the city walls of the Sword Emperor city, and the earth shattered. The scene was terrifying to the extreme. It was as if the heavens had fallen and the stars were shaking. Amidst such a shocking scene, a blurry figure stood above the tribulation clouds. It was ethereal, like the arrival of a sword immortal. In the bright moonlit night, who would lean on a sword in the white clouds? The rumbling fluctuations and dazzling brilliance began to recede after more than 100 breaths. At the same time, the thunder tide that filled the sky retreated. Hua Tianyue, the heroic martial marquis, and the other false saints of the 4 great families and the 3 great dynasties froze at this moment. An unbelievable thought was born in their hearts. They were not the only ones who were shocked. The millions of martial artists who were watching the battle in the distance were also shocked. Including Meng Zhen and the others, all of their faces were lifeless, as if they had lost their souls. Could it be? No, impossible, how could he break through so easily? Meng Zhen muttered absent-mindedly, unable to believe it. At the same time, all the remaining martial artists in the Sword Emperor city almost stopped breathing. Had their prayers really succeeded? Seeing the figure standing in the clouds, the heavens and the earth were silent. In this deathly silence, an extremely powerful aura burst out from the blurry figure. The aura was so strong that it shot straight into the clouds, as if the stars in the 9 heavens were on the verge of collapse. The void shattered in an instant. A cold whisper slowly sounded. One thought as saint, sword asks the heavens. Chapter 1149. The voice was not loud, but it spread across the sky and earth. Whether it was the 2 camps on the battlefield or the millions of spectators in the distance, they all heard that sentence. One thought to become a saint, the sword asks the heavens. As the voice faded, the dark clouds above the sky dissipated. Yi Tianqing's figure finally appeared in front of everyone. His face was handsome, his white robes were peerless, his black hair fluttered, and a wine pot hung at his waist. He was like an ancient sword immortal. But at this moment, Yi Tianqing's aura was different from before. If it was before, everyone could feel the powerful pressure of Yi Tianqing as a top-notch false saint. But now, Yi Tianqing's aura was as immeasurable as the deep sea. Hua Tianyue and the other false saints of the 4 great clans stared at Yi Tianqing, their hearts trembling. The thing they did not want to happen the most had happened. They were not the only ones who were shocked, but the false saints of the 3 great empires were also shocked. The heroic martial marquis and the others stared at Yi Tianqing with knitted brows. They could feel that Yi Tianqing had already taken that step. He had reached a completely different realm from the false saint stage. Transcendence into the saint stage. No. How could it be? He really succeeded. Meng Zhen's old face darkened, and an extreme jealousy spread in his heart. If this old man can obtain the Saint Dao fruit, perhaps this old man can also become a saint. Meng Zhen's eyes flashed with a cold light of jealousy. Really, he became a saint. The millions of spectators in the distance, after confirming it, exclaimed one after another. This was the first time they had witnessed the birth of a heavenly tribulation saint. At the same time, in Sword Emperor City, from false saints like Wu Hongyan to ordinary divine dwelling stage experts, they were all excited, and even their eyes were sparkling. Even the iron-blooded men, lords and venerables, had red eyes. Men do not easily shed tears, only because they have not been deeply hurt. The final battle this time was truly too tragic. The price that the Sword Dynasty had paid was too great. In the sky, Yi Tianqing lowered his head slightly, looking at the corpses strewn all over Sword Emperor City and the rivers of blood. He took a deep breath, and his usually calm eyes were filled with self-blame. Then, everyone saw Yi Tianqing's figure descend from the sky, standing in the middle of the corpse-strewn battlefield. Because of Yi Tianqing's breakthrough, the entire battlefield strangely stopped. The people of the 4 great clans and the 3 great empires very cautiously retreated, shrinking into a defensive circle. Yi Tianqing looked at the Sword King dynasty martial artist buried in the pile of corpses and slowly took off the wine jug from her waist. Then he knelt down on one knee and sprinkled the wine on the ground. Deputy Alliance Leader. Everyone in the Sword Sovereign City was shaken to the core when they saw this. Yi Tianqing was now a heavenly tribulation saint. Who had ever seen a heavenly tribulation saint? Heavenly sentiments, have failed my big brother, the Sword Dao Alliance Master, proud divine prefecture. Secondly, I am ashamed of the heroic souls of the Sword Dynasty who died on the battlefield. Thirdly, I'm ashamed of the Sword Dao Alliance and the entire Sword Dynasty. Yi Tianqing's voice was faint, but incomparably deep. Deputy Alliance Leader. The eyes of all the Sword Dynasty experts turned red. The 3 of them felt guilty. Their Dao relied on the heavens, and they blamed themselves in their hearts. This was the true Sword Sovereign Yi Tianqing. This was the true hero in their hearts that was worthy of following and revering. Today, strong wine for the heroes. Slay the world for the Emperor. As soon as Heavenly Love's voice fell, she raised one hand and her sword, Phoenix seeking Phoenix, let out a heaven-shaking cry. An incomparably terrifying sword concept spread out from Yi Tianqing's body. At this moment, he seemed to have turned from a sword immortal into a killing god. For the Sword Dynasty, kill. Where the sword does not return, I ask the heavens with my sword. Yi Tianqing used the 3rd level of the Sword Realm, Unity of Heaven and Man. At the same time, he used the song Stepping Sword Art. In an instant, a resplendent sword light lit up the 9 heavens and 10 earths, tearing through the void. A sword shook the heavens. A sword shocked the gods. The Sword Sovereign attacked, the wrath of a saint was unstoppable. Damn it, everyone be careful. Hua Tianyue and the others' expressions changed, and they hurriedly retreated. The heroic Marshal Marquis and the others' expressions changed greatly. Although they were nervous, they were not particularly shocked. He did not believe that Yi Tianqing would dare to kill all the false saints of the 3 dynasties today. Rumble. Under the shocked gazes of thousands of people, the terrifying sword light that tore through the heavens and earth directly pierced through the bodies of the 7 false saints. The 7 false saints did not have the slightest ability to resist, and their bodies were directly torn apart by the sword light, exploding into blossoms of flesh and blood. Although the strength of a false saint was strong, there was still the word false in front of it. A true heavenly tribulation saint had transcended the mortal realm and had already broken away from the realm of mortals. The strength of the 2 could not be mentioned in the same breath. This shocking sword strike caused everyone in the Sword Emperor City to be stunned. Then, endless joy spread out from everyone's eyes. This was the true strength of the leader of the Sword Dynasty, Sword Sovereign Yi Tianqing. He killed 7 false saints with a sword strike. Such a move shocked all the onlookers in the distance. Even people like Meng Zhen were shocked at this moment, and did not even dare to have any jealousy. Damn it! Hua Tianyue saw this scene, and his teeth were about to shatter. The originally destined ending had a shocking reversal because of Yi Tianqing's breakthrough to the saint realm. It could be said that even if all the false saints attacked together, they would not be able to pose much of a threat to Yi Tianqing. Yi Tianqing, on the other hand, could easily kill false saints. Today, no one who attacked the Sword Dynasty can escape, Yi Tianqing said coldly. He was not a bloodthirsty person. But the tragic scene of the Sword Dynasty made him feel no mercy in his heart. Ha! Yi Tianqing, you are indeed unexpected, but do you think I will lose? Hua Tianyue's expression suddenly changed, and he let out a cold laugh. Yi Tianqing frowned slightly. The joy on the faces of Wu Hongyan and the others faded a little. Looking at Hua Tianyue's expression, they vaguely felt a trace of uneasiness. Ha! Our family has been preparing for revenge for so long, how can it fail like this? As Hua Tianyue spoke, he suddenly turned back and bowed to the void in the distance. Everyone, I know you are watching from behind. This time, as long as you can kill Yi Tianqing and destroy the Sword Dao Alliance, the entire Sword Dynasty can be yours. There was a trace of madness in Hua Tianyue's words. Previously, his agreement with the three dynasties was only to give part of the land to the three dynasties. And now, he had handed over the entire Sword Empire to someone else. Is this Hua Tianyue crazy? Who is he talking to? The millions of martial artists watching in the distance were all puzzled. Could it be that seeing Yi Tianqing break through to the Saint Realm, Hua Tianyue could not accept it and lost his mind? However, just as everyone was extremely puzzled, a soft sigh suddenly came from the depths of the vault of heaven. Immediately, a vast and boundless fluctuation erupted. A golden bridge of laws extended from the depths of the vault of heaven. A figure slowly walked over from the other end of the bridge of laws. That is, everyone's breathing seemed to have stopped, and their eyes widened, filled with horror. That fluctuation was also the power of a saint. Chapter 1150. It was the figure that stepped out from the bridge of laws. He wore dark golden ancient armor with a golden cloak behind him. His figure was majestic, and his eyes were like two suns, exuding an oppressive aura. He was like a war god, and his surging saint power shook the heavens and the universe. When they saw this figure, all the martial artists in the world almost suffocated. An extremely oppressive feeling swept over them like a tide. The experts of the war god dynasty, including the heroic martial marquis, became extremely respectful and humble. They bowed to the figure and said, "Greetings to the Earth War Emperor." What, he's the war god dynasty's Earth War Emperor? But why is he also in the Saint Realm? When they heard the heroic martial marquis words, the entire place fell silent for a moment, and then there was an earth-shattering roar. The leaders of the war god dynasty were the Heaven War Emperor and the Earth War Emperor. But everyone knew that the strongest in the 100 great dynasties were all false saints. At least in the outside world, they had never heard of any dynasty having a saint overseeing it. But now, with the appearance of the Earth War Emperor, everyone suddenly understood a truth. None of the top-ranked dynasties were simple. Who dared to say that there wasn't a saint in those dynasties? Earth War Emperor. Yi Tianqing's eyes narrowed slightly, and her expression was slightly serious. Yi Tianqing, I also didn't expect you to break through to the Saint Realm. But this can't change the outcome of the Sword Dynasty. My War God Dynasty has had enough of being second, the Earth War Emperor said. His voice was as deep as a bell, and it caused the surrounding space to tremble. Yi Tianqing sneered and didn't reply. Instead, she said to another void, "Since you're here, then all of you should show yourselves. Why hide and lose the spirit of a saint?" Yi Tianqing's words stunned everyone again. Wu Hongyan and the others were stunned at first, and then seemed to understand something. Their expressions became extremely ugly. Ha! Yi Tianqing, you've just broken through to the Saint Realm, and you have such perception. How surprising. Somewhere in the void, black demonic chi tumbled, and an elder in a white Taoist robe appeared with a sneer. His body was as thin as a matchstick, like a skeleton, but that faint pressure was on the same level as heavenly sentiment and earthly war emperor. Greetings to Old Man Devil Bone. The 5 false saints of the Molla dynasty and the rest of the experts could not help but feel their eyelids twitch when they saw the newcomer. They hurriedly bowed. What? The demonic bone old man? He's the false saint expert who caused a bloody storm in the Molla dynasty several hundred years ago. He almost slaughtered half of the Molla dynasty. In the end, he was suppressed by the Lord of Molla and disappeared without a trace. I didn't expect him to still be alive. Some of the surrounding old men from the other dynasties stared with their eyes wide open and revealed extremely astonished gazes. Back then, Old Man Demon Bone had caused great waves in the Molla dynasty. Even the other dynasties had heard of it. In the end, the Devil Bone Old Man was suppressed by the ruler of the Molla dynasty. Everyone thought that the demonic Bone Old Man was already dead. Who would have thought that he would reappear at this moment? However, the shock was not over yet. Above a cloud-covered sky, a saber aura as thick as a mountain suddenly slashed down. The clouds in the sky were directly split apart, and the terrifying saber aura did not decrease in momentum as it slashed down at Heavenly Sentiment. The sword in Heavenly Sentiment's hand vibrated, and an equally dazzling sword radiance spread out and collided with the saber aura, bursting out thousands of miles of waves. In the endless waves, a middle-aged man in a yellow robe appeared, holding a golden dragon-toothed saber. His entire body was sharp and domineering, like a saber that could cut the world in half. I've long wanted to compete with the famous sword sovereign of the Sword Dynasty. Today, I finally have the chance. The middle-aged man laughed heartily, and the vigorous fluctuations in his body rumbled in the sky. That's the overlord of sabers of the domineering Saber Dynasty, Hua Tianxiong. There was an earth-shattering uproar again. Hua Tianxiong, known as the overlord of sabers, was a well-known expert in the domineering Saber Dynasty. Previously, the outside world had also heard that Hua Tianxiong was at the peak of the false saint realm. Unexpectedly, he had also broken through to the saint realm. The earthly war emperor, Old Man Demon Bone, and Hua Tianxiong, the 3 heavenly tribulation saints of the 3 dynasties appeared one after another. The entire world was dead silent. The millions of spectating martial artists were all breathing rapidly, and their faces were filled with shock. They had only come to see the final result of the Sword Dynasty. They had not expected to see 4 heavenly tribulation saints. As heavenly tribulation saints who stood at the peak of the South Horizon region, they were extremely rare, and now they had appeared one after another, which was shocking. How can this be? Why? Wu Hongyan's charming face was pale, and her mouth was bitter. She had thought that heavenly sentiment had broken through to the heavenly tribulation saint realm, and the outcome of the Sword Dynasty would be completely reversed. Who would have thought that such a scene would occur? Ha, is this the fate of the Sword Dynasty? Confuzi seemed to have aged 10 years in an instant, and he bitterly shook his head. Jian Jingheng, Ling Emoshu, Mu Xingzu, and the others all stood in place in a daze. The cruelest thing in the world was the emergence of hope and despair, and then the hope was extinguished again. I can't accept this. Does the heavens want my Sword Dynasty to die? In the Sword Sovereign City, many Sword Dynasty martial artists knelt on the ground and roared into the sky. Blood mixed with tears rolled down. No matter how strong heavenly sentiment was, how could she block the attacks of 3 heavenly tribulation saints at the same time? Ha ha ha, heavenly sentiment, no one can stop my path of revenge. The Sword Dao Alliance will die today. Hua Tianyue could not stop laughing, forming a sharp contrast with the despairing crowd in the Sword Sovereign City. The Earth War Emperor also said, heavenly sentiment, feudal resistance is meaningless. Even if you can block 1 saint, can you block 3? As long as I, heavenly sentiment, still have a breath left, I will not allow you to step into the territory of the Sword Sovereign City. Heavenly sentiment stood high in the sky, holding a sword in one hand and pointing it diagonally to the ground, her black hair fluttering. 1 person and 1 sword, blocking the experts of the three dynasties. Ha! You won't cry until you see the coffin. Elder Demon Bone smiled coldly, and his eyes shone with a cruel light. He was considering, if they could join hands to kill Heavenly Love and obtain her body, would they be able to refine an extremely powerful puppet? Thinking of this, Elder Demon Bone said to the Earth War Emperor and Hu Tianxiong, the two of you, although joining forces will slightly damage the reputation of a saint, it's better to end the battle as soon as possible. Hearing Elder Demon Bone's words, the Earth War Emperor nodded slightly. Hu Tianxiong hesitated for a moment before agreeing. There was no fairness in a battle between dynasties. Boom! Without the slightest hesitation, the three saints attacked at the same time. The Earth War Emperor held a giant golden axe in his hand and swung it down vertically. It was as if the sky and earth were splitting apart, and a huge crack spread across the ground. The power of the axe shook heaven and earth. Elder Demon Bone waved his hand and summoned a white ancient seal. It expanded in the wind and turned into a mountain of white bones, as if thousands of ghosts were wailing. The mountain of white bones pressed down on Heavenly Sentiment, as if a hell of white bones was pressing down from the yellow springs. Hu Tianxiong, on the other hand, simply swung his golden scale dragon-tooth saber. Saber Chi was like an azure dragon that cut through the surrounding void and charged straight at Heavenly Sentiment. Unity of Heaven and Man, Extreme of the Heavens, Song of 10,000 Miles, Sword of Heavenly Sentiment. Heavenly Sentiment naturally couldn't hold back in the face of the powerful moves of three Heavenly Tribulation Saints. She directly unleashed her strongest move. The Unity of Heaven and Man sword realm fused with the Song of Song. A terrifying sword intent seemed to borrow the power of heaven and earth. It was as if the entire world was filled with boundless sword intent. This scene made the Earth War Emperor, Elder Demon Bone, and Hu Tianxiong frown. If it was a one-on-one battle, they definitely wouldn't be able to do anything to Heavenly Sentiment. But unfortunately, it was 3 against 1 now. Rumble. An indescribable wave of energy spread out from the center of the collision. That destructive wave caused the surrounding ground to sink hundreds of feet. This was a true collapse of heaven and earth, and the universe was shocked. The power of a collision between saints was boundlessly terrifying. The allied forces of the 3 dynasties and 4 great families had already retreated from the battle, afraid that they would be affected. As for Sword Sovereign City, it wasn't too affected. This was because Heavenly Sentiment had used her physical body to block the incoming wave of air. But it was also because of this. Heavenly Sentiment retreated dozens of steps, blood flowing from the corner of her mouth. Lord Sword Sovereign. Deputy Alliance Leader Heavenly Sentiment. Wu Hongyan, the Sword Master, and all the other people in the Sword Emperor City were shocked. In order to protect them, Heavenly Sentiment not only forcefully blocked the powerful moves of the 3 saints, but she also stood up to block the destructive wave of air. Heavenly Sentiment coughed and said indifferently, "I can still hold on. All of you, quickly retreat. No, we will live and die with Deputy Alliance Leader Heavenly Sentiment. We will live and die with the Sword Dynasty." None of the people in Sword Sovereign City left. If they left now, they would definitely regret it for the rest of their lives. Ha, they're all a bunch of fools. In the distance, Meng Zhen narrowed his eyes slightly with a leisurely expression. Heavenly Sentiment, so what if you've broken through to become a Heavenly Tribulation Saint? Won't you still die in the end? Meng Zhen smiled and muttered to himself. In the sky, the 3 saints shook their heads slightly when they saw this scene. One had to admit that Heavenly Sentiment's personality was indeed admirable. However, the war between dynasties was just so cruel. There was no fairness to speak of. Since you're so insistent, then I'll fulfill your wish. The Earth War Sovereign raised his golden giant axe again and used a powerful move. Old Man Demon Bone and Hu Tianxiong also attacked again. Surging saint power spread out without reservation. This time, the combo was even more powerful than before. Even someone as strong as Heavenly Sentiment would have to pay a huge price if she wanted to receive it. No, who can help Deputy Alliance Leader Heavenly Sentiment? Behind them, the people of Sword's sovereign city were pale, their eyes filled with despair. Their strength was too insignificant in front of a saint. Just as the three saints combo was about to collide with heavenly sentiment again. Suddenly, a frosty sword chi tore through the void for hundreds of thousands of miles, wiping out the layers of clouds in the sky. The sword chi pierced into the battle in an unparalleled manner. As a heavenly tribulation saint, you're actually so despicable. I feel contempt for you. A frosty voice came from afar. Accompanied by this voice, snowflakes fluttered in the sky. A figure with a sword in his arms, exuding a lonely chill, stepped through the air. Chapter 1151. This sudden turn of events could be said to have caused everyone present to be incomparably stunned. Who would have thought that at such a critical juncture, there would be unexpected complications? Moreover, the deciding factor of victory and defeat was the battle strength of a saint. Even a false saint would not be able to influence the battle, let alone interfere in a battle between saints. This sudden situation also caused the three saints of the three empires to frown as they looked at the figure that was flying over. It was a middle-aged man in a black robe with a sword in his arms. His long gray hair fluttered in the wind, and his cold face was as sharp as a knife. There were two crisscrossing scars, making him look extremely cold and lonely. The person who came was none other than. It was the solitary cloud sword saint, Ling Qianhen. When they saw this figure clearly, the expressions of the spectators in the distance froze at first, and then their eyes were filled with surprise. Am I seeing things? That's the solitary cloud sword saint Ling Qianhen? That's right, it's Ling Qianhen, but when did he become a saint? Among the millions of martial artists, cries of surprise rose and fell one after another. Ling Qianhen's reputation was actually not weak. He was a well-known rogue cultivator, a false saint expert, and was even famous for rejecting the Sword Dao Alliance's invitation. However, it was such a famous expert with a cold and unruly character who would actually interfere in the battle between the empires. It was truly beyond everyone's expectations. You are the solitary cloud sword saint. The Earth War Emperor, demonic bone old man, and Hu Tianxiong narrowed their eyes, and a trace of surprise appeared in their eyes. They had also heard of Ling Qianhen's name. However, if Ling Qianhen was still in the false saint realm, they wouldn't care at all. However, Ling Qianhen was in the same realm as them. As saints, you guys really don't care about your reputation. A trace of coldness appeared on Ling Qianhen's face. Ling Qianhen, it's indeed surprising that you've become a heavenly tribulation saint, but why are you interfering in the war between the dynasties? The Earth War Emperor frowned. That's right. Ling Qianhen, you've always been a lone wolf. You won't work for any power. Don't tell this old man that you're going to stand up for the Sword Dynasty today. Old man Demon Bone's expression wasn't too good either. Today, the three of them appeared to destroy the Sword Dynasty. Even if the saints of the three dynasties joined forces, they still couldn't wipe out the Sword Dynasty. If word got out, where would their reputation go? Hearing the demonic bone old man's words, everyone from the Sword Dynasty became nervous. I didn't expect the solitary cloud sword saint to help us. Is it a spur-of-the-moment thing, or does he really want to help us? Wu Hongyan was extremely nervous. She really did not want to see heavenly love take on three saints alone. Sigh, back then, the Alliance Master of the Proud Divine Region wanted to rope in Ling Qianhen, but he failed. This time, Confuzi wanted to say something, but stopped. Obviously, he didn't believe that Ling Qianhen, who had a disagreeable and unsociable personality, would suddenly be so kind as to help the Sword Dynasty. Below, Jian Jinghong, Mu Xingzu, Ling Mo Shu, and the others were all nervous. They didn't know what Ling Qianhen's position was. As for the other cultivators of the Sword Dynasty, they actually knelt on one knee before Ling Qianhen and shouted. I hope the solitary cloud sword saint can help us. I hope the Lord Ling Qianhen can help the Sword Dynasty. Don't let the Vice Alliance Master fight alone. Shouts rose and fell one after another, and it was quite infectious. On the other side, Hua Tianyue's expression changed slightly. He looked at Ling Qianhen and said, "Solitary Cloud Sword Saint, this is a battle between the dynasties. I hope you won't interfere." "Heh. Who can restrain me, Ling Qianhen?" "You?" Ling Qianhen revealed a cold smile. The sword in his bosom trembled, and a ray of cold sword light cut through the void, piercing through the air towards Hua Tianyue. Hua Tianyue's expression changed. At this time, Demonic Bone Old Man stretched out his hand and blocked the attack. He stared at Ling Qianhen with a gloomy face and said, "State your position. A drop of water will be repaid with a gushing spring. If anyone wants to deal with the Sword Dynasty, they'll have to ask the solitary frost sword in my hand." As soon as Ling Qianhen's words fell, the frosty sword chi that filled the sky burst forth. It was as if the entire world had been frozen. "What, you really want to stand up for the Sword Dynasty? Who in the Sword Dynasty can give you a favor?" Hua Tianxiong said in a deep voice. "Dugu Wubai." Ling Qianhen indifferently spat out 4 words. Dead silence, the millions of martial artists were silent. The people of the 4 great families and the 3 great dynasties were also dumbfounded. Dugu Wubai. The Dugu Wubai whose divine dwellings were broken. The Dugu Wubai who was trapped in the skyless sword realm. At this moment, the people of the 4 great families and the 3 great dynasties were unable to wrap their heads around it. They really couldn't understand how an extremely weak and insignificant person in their eyes had the qualifications to invite Ling Qianhen, this great Buddha. "Dugu Wubai, it's Dugu Wubai again." Hearing these 4 words, Hua Tianyue's eyes immediately flashed with resentment and coldness. He would never forget Dugu Wubai because it was Dugu Wubai who killed his son, Hua Wuxiu. On the other hand, the Sword Dynasty was also stunned. Jian Jinghong and the others were also dumbfounded. When did Yi Guqin get involved with the solitary Cloud Sword Saint? Could it be? Wu Hongyan and Confuzi looked at each other and suddenly understood something. So he gave the Saint Dao fruit to Ling Qianhen. Confuzi laughed. "It really is him. He actually hid this move." Wu Hongyan couldn't help but sigh in admiration of Yi Guqin's meticulous thinking. In the distance, Meng Zhen, Meng Churen, Luo Yu, and the others' faces stiffened. Especially Meng Churen. She didn't expect that the young man she looked down on could not only find the Monster King to help him, but also the famous solitary Cloud Sword Saint to help the Sword Dynasty because of Yi Guqin. However, after the shock, Meng Churen patted her chest and exhaled deeply. "Although I don't know how he was able to invite the solitary Cloud Sword Saint, he will never be able to leave the skyless sword realm." Ling Qianhen's attitude was undoubtedly extremely resolute. He had a cold temperament but clearly distinguished between kindness and hatred. Yi Guqin helped him become a saint, so he was willing to help the Sword Dynasty avoid this crisis. "Since you insist, there's no other way. However, if you think the Sword Dynasty can avoid this disaster with your help, then you're too naive." The Earth War Emperor shook his head. Even if Ling Qianhen was included, the Sword Dynasty only had 2 saints. On their side, there were still 3 saints. If 2 of them were to hold back Heavenly Love and Ling Qianhen, then the remaining saint would bring a devastating blow to the Sword Dynasty. Not to mention that there was a group of false saints. "Leave Heavenly Love to me. Let's see if you, the Sword Sovereign, or I, the Overlord of Sabers, is stronger." Hua Tianxiong's figure flashed as he broke through the void and slashed at Heavenly Love with his saber. "Then let me hold back Ling Qianhen." The Earth War Emperor also made his move, swinging his golden axe at Ling Qianhen. "Hee, these are all the best flesh and blood. They can be used to cultivate my skeleton puppets." The Demonic Bone Elder's figure flashed as he broke through the line of defense. Heavenly Love and Ling Qianhen wanted to go back to help, but they were firmly held back by Hua Tianxiong and the Earth War Emperor. "Pitiful ants, becoming this saint's food is the end of your lives." The Demonic Bone Elder stretched out his hand, and a blood-red vortex appeared in his palm. A terrifying suction force burst out, and some of the weaker martial artists below exploded. Their blood was drawn out and absorbed by the blood-red vortex. Damn it! Confuzi, Wu Hongyan, and the other false saints could only protect some people. Most of the Sword Dynasty martial artists exploded one by one, and cries filled the field. Damn beast! Jian Jinghong and the other Sword Sons gritted their teeth, but there was nothing they could do. Now, the Sword Dynasty was powerless to reverse the situation. Sigh. Is this the end of the Sword Dynasty? Seeing this, everyone in the distance sighed inwardly. However, just as everyone thought that the Sword Dynasty's end was set in stone, a voice filled with endless coldness suddenly came from the distant horizon. Today, I, Dugu Wubai, will dye the sky red with the blood of saints. Chapter 1152. Saint blood dyed the sky red for millions of miles. What kind of arrogant words were these? Following this voice, a figure broke through the air from the distance. Dressed in a black robe, black hair fluttering, and a ghost mask on his face. It was Ye Guqin, who had rushed back from the heavenless sword realm. When he saw the battlefield full of corpses, and the collapsed Sword Emperor city, a burst of endless anger surged from Ye Guqin's heart. Ye Guqin asked himself, his personality was inclined to be antisocial, and he had never been an emotional person. But at this moment, seeing the miserable state of the Sword Dynasty, he still could not help but feel angry. Ye Guqin came all the way from the Sword Dynasty, although there were many enemies and tribulations, but there were also seniors like Bei Xian Elder, Great Elder Imei, Wu Hongyan, Confuzi, Etian Qing, and others who helped him. There was also Jian Jinghong, Ling Imoshu, Xuanlian, Kong Kong, and other good friends who accompanied him. So Ye Guqin did not say that the Sword Dynasty was like home, but he also had a sense of belonging. At this moment, the dynasty was broken, blood flowed for thousands of miles. How could Ye Guqin not be angry? But compared to Ye Guqin's anger, the other people's expressions were absolutely horrified. As if they had seen a ghost. I'm not mistaken, that's the Sword Dynasty's Jinkui Dugu Wubai. Didn't he enter the Heavenless Sword Realm? How is that possible? The Heavenless Sword Realm is the most dangerous place of the 4 great secret realms. How could he come out? Endless uproar, like a tide, overturned all directions. The Sword Dynasty's Heavenless Sword Realm was also famous in other dynasties. The news of Ye Guqin entering the Heavenless Sword Realm had already spread everywhere. But no one thought that Ye Guqin could come out of the Heavenless Sword Realm alive. Because that was almost impossible. Is that really? Dugu Wubai. Meng Churen's body trembled. Her breathing quickened, and her face turned pale. She couldn't believe this was real. How could this Ye Guqin, whom she viewed as a cripple, come out of the skyless sword realm alive? What right did he have? Luo Yu, who was standing at the side, felt his scalp go numb. His face was filled with shock. He was also in disbelief. Meng Zhen's face darkened as he found it unbelievable. It could be said that Ye Guqin's appearance made everyone feel like they had seen a ghost. On the other hand, Mu Xingzu and the others from the Sword Dynasty were extremely excited. Ling Qianhen was not surprised by Ye Guqin's appearance. Ye Guqin had already created many miracles. However, after their initial excitement, the hearts of the Sword Dynasty members sank. Because they didn't see any trace of the proud divine continent. So we still couldn't save the Alliance Master. Many Sword Dynasty martial artists sighed deeply. However, they didn't blame Ye Guqin. After all, that was almost impossible. At this moment, Old Man Demonic Bone heard Dugu Wubai's words. A cruel sneer appeared on his old face, which was as thin as tree bark. You're Jinkui of the Sword Dynasty. The ignorant are truly fearless. Have you heard that a saint cannot be humiliated? A heavenly tribulation saint had transcended mortality and was above all living beings. Therefore, a saint's prestige could not be humiliated. Just now, Ye Guqin said that he would let the saint's blood dye the sky red. That was already blasphemy to a saint. You old ghost, you really deserve to die. Yiguchin's expression was extremely cold as he watched the vortex in Old Man Demonic Bone's hand devour many Sword Dynasty martial artists. You little bastard, you're courting death. However, before Old Man Demonic Bone could erupt in anger, Hua Tianyue's blood-red eyes locked onto Yiguchin. He had already said that he would kill 2 people with his own hands. One was relying on the heavens, and the other was Dugu Wubai. Now that the enemy who killed his son was right in front of him, how could Hua Tianyue tolerate it? Even if he killed a Divine Palace Junior as a false saint, his reputation would be tarnished. However, Hua Tianyue was eager for revenge and couldn't care less. Little bastard, pay with your life for Xiao, Hua Tianyue's figure flashed in front of Yiguchin and reached out to grab Yiguchin. He wouldn't let Yiguchin die so easily. He would let Yiguchin taste a fate worse than death. Dugu Wubai. Lord Jinkue. Everyone in Sword Sovereign City turned pale with fright. Wu Hongyan, Kenfuzi, and the others wanted to help, but it was too late. Jian Jinghong and the others also looked extremely solemn. Mu Xingzu's face turned pale under the Sword Master mask. She couldn't help but want to rush out, but Suki Miyazaki pulled her back. Your master definitely doesn't want you to die. Suki Miyazaki said in a deep voice. Compared to the solemnity of the Sword Dynasty, Meng Zhen, Meng Churen, and the others were gloating. They were happy to see Yiguchin fall in Hua Tianyue's hands. This should be the shortest-lived Jinkue in the history of the Sword Dynasty, right? Meng Churen sneered maliciously. Just when everyone thought that Yiguchin would fall in Hua Tianyue's hands. The void behind Yiguchin was suddenly torn apart. Immediately, a strong arm stretched out and grabbed Hua Tianyue's neck in a shocking way. Hua Tianyue, who was incomparably ferocious a moment ago, was now like a little chick that could be kneaded by anyone. The terrifying force on his neck made him feel suffocated. But what made Hua Tianyue feel even more suffocated was, looking along the arm, a tall and handsome man in a gray robe stepped out of the spatial rift. His long hair was scattered, and his temperament was domineering. When he and Yiguchin broke through the 10 ultimate sword formation, he was incomparably restrained and peaceful. At this moment, he was showing the majesty of a sword maniac. This person, if not the proud divine continent, who else could it be? You are, looking at the figure stepping out of the spatial rift, Hua Tianyue felt as if thousands of thunderbolts were roaring in his mind. It made his scalp tingle, and his whole body trembled. As a high and mighty false saint expert, how long had it been since he had experienced such a feeling of trembling? It wasn't just him. The moment the proud divine continent stepped out of the spatial rift, everyone present felt a terrifying aura like a volcanic eruption. It made the aura of heaven and earth seem to be disturbed. That is, the Earth War Emperor, Hua Tianxiong, and the Demon Bone Old Man, who was in the middle of a massacre, all trembled and stopped moving. Their gazes suddenly turned to the mighty man who had suddenly appeared. Yi Tianqing's expression was also shocked, and his eyes revealed a look of joy. He finally saw the figure that he had not seen for a long time. I didn't see wrongly, right? That's the Sword Alliance's proud divine continent. If Yiguchin's appearance had caused everyone to be shocked, then the appearance of the proud divine continent had shocked everyone even more. Perhaps some young people had not seen the proud divine continent with their own eyes, but some venerables, as well as the elderly, had seen the proud divine continent before. It's really the proud divine continent. He came out of the heavenless sword realm. Could it be that Dugu Wubai found him? This is simply unbelievable. The appearance of the proud divine continent could be said to have caused a huge uproar. The expressions of the 4 great families' false saint experts changed at the same time. The false saints of the 3 great dynasties were aghast. Not to mention them, even the Earth War Emperor and the other saints of the 3 great dynasties had extremely solemn expressions. Because they could feel the palpitating aura coming from the proud divine continent's body. Could it be? He took that step. The 3 saints, who were originally confident of victory and had a card up their sleeves, felt a sense of uneasiness in their hearts at this moment. Chapter 1153. Sword Dao Alliance Master, Proud Divine Continent, a living legend. That sentence, facing the cold sword of the heavens alone, why did you give birth to me, a hero? It was not an exaggeration to say that he was the most monstrous sword expert in the history of the Sword Dynasty. Otherwise, Proud Divine Continent would not sit in the position of Sword Dao Alliance Master. However, Proud Divine Continent's arrogance made him unwilling to break through to become a heavenly tribulation saint in the most ordinary way, so he entered the heavenless sword realm to train, seeking the most perfect breakthrough. But this also caused Proud Divine Continent to be trapped in the heavenless sword realm. As a result, the Sword Dynasty fell into the division of aristocratic families and rogue cultivators. At this moment, the ground was bleeding and bones were piled up like mountains. Proud Divine Continent's eyes, in addition to self-blame, were overflowing with anger. The surrounding void seemed to be shaking violently because of Proud Divine Continent's anger. Heavens, Sword Dao Alliance Master, Proud Divine Continent, what realm has he reached? Heavenly Tribulation Saint is certain, but why do I feel that Proud Divine Continent is more terrifying than ordinary Heavenly Tribulation Saints? In the distance, millions of martial artists stared blankly at Proud Divine Continent standing in the sky. No wonder they were so shocked, because Proud Divine Continent's aura was too strong. And the way he appeared was too shocking, directly tearing the void, one hand grabbing Hua Tianyue's neck. A dignified peak false saint expert, in the hands of Proud Divine Continent, was like a little chick struggling. This kind of shocking power really made people's hearts shake. How is it possible? How could that kid come out of the heavenless sword realm? How could he save Proud Divine Continent? At this moment, Mengzhen's old face was pale, cold sweat flowing down his back. He did not want to believe the scene in front of him, did not want to believe that Proud Divine Continent could escape. The other four false saints, one by one, were also frightened. They were frightened because they withdrew at the moment of Sword Dynasty's crisis, and even became a spectator. If Proud Divine Continent knew this situation, they did not know what would happen to them. Meng Churen and Luo Yu, their faces were as pale as paper. Especially Meng Churen, at this moment, her jade face was pale, her voice was dry, except for her eyes full of shock and disbelief, there was no other thought. Proud Divine Continent Alliance Master, Yu, Hua Tianyue's face turned green and purple, no matter how he struggled to break free of Proud Divine Continent's hands. You, still know to call me Alliance Master? The Proud Divine Continent's eyes were ice cold, like a cold abyss. For the sake of the Sword Dynasty's foundation and development, he did his best to accommodate the aristocratic families. In the end, he did not expect that it would lead to such a disaster. It almost destroyed the entire Sword Dynasty. He blamed himself on the heavens. How could the Proud Divine Continent not blame themselves? It seems I was wrong. I thought being lenient would make you more loyal to Sword Dynasty. I didn't think it would only fuel your ambitions, Proud God Continent said coldly. Let me go. Hua Tianyue struggled violently. He could feel that Proud Divine Continent's palm was getting stronger and stronger. Beside the two of them, Yiguchen stared indifferently at Hua Tianyue. He did not have the slightest bit of sympathy for Hua Tianyue. Jian Shisan's tragedy. The division of the Sword Dynasty. Everything originated from the aristocratic families. And the first to start was the Hua family, the leader of the 5 great families. In the past, I was wrong. So now, I want to fix this mistake. In the eyes of the Proud Divine Continent, a sharp and cold light flashed. No. Don't. I can atone for my sins, I can. Hua Tianyue's eyes were filled with extreme fear. No one was not afraid of death. Even the false saint experts were the same. He still had a grand plan that had not been completed. He still had a blood feud that had not been avenged. How could he die? However, before Hua Tianyue could finish his words, the Proud Divine Continent's palm exerted force. With a crack, Hua Tianyue's neck was directly broken. Not only that, When Hua Tianyue's neck was broken, a surge of saint power surged out, shattering all the bones and internal organs in Hua Tianyue's body into minced meat. In this way, even if it was a false saint expert, he could not be more dead. Hua Tianyue's eyes bulged, bloodshot, and his expression was frozen with unwillingness, regret, and resentment. He died with his eyes open, holding hatred to the heavens. Then, proud divine continent slowly released his palm. The dead Hua Tianyue fell from the sky. Proud divine continent reached out with one hand, and the power of law surged. The surrounding earth surged with mud, directly wrapping Hua Tianyue's body, forming a kneeling posture, frozen outside the Sword Emperor city. Proud divine continent's cold voice resounded through the heavens and earth. Today, I will kill the traitor of the Sword Dynasty, Hua Tianyue, seal his body, kneel outside the Sword Emperor city, and comfort the souls of countless heroes of the Sword Dynasty. This scene made everyone in the sky and earth almost stop breathing. Casually crushing a peak false saint expert to death, not only that, but also sealing his dead body into a clay sculpture, making him kneel for a long time. When the Earth War Emperor, Hua Tianxiong, and the Devil Bone Old Man saw this, their eyes were filled with extreme fear and seriousness, and a trace of shock. Don't look at how this was just a casual matter. But this was enough to show that the strength of the proud divine continent had already surpassed that of an ordinary heavenly tribulation saint. Next, it's your turn. The anger in the proud divine continent's eyes still did not reduce. Killing Hua Tianyue was not the end, but the beginning, Devil Bone Old Man, right? Pay with your life for my Sword Dynasty. The proud divine continent stared at the Devil Bone Old Man at first glance. Because the Devil Bone Old Man had just killed and devoured many martial artists in the Sword Emperor city. Without the slightest hesitation, the proud divine continent stepped with one foot, almost teleported to the side of the Devil Bone Old Man, and suppressed the Devil Bone Old Man with one hand. Damn it, proud divine continent, don't be so arrogant. Feeling the surging power coming, the Devil Bone Old Man's face suddenly changed. But he still didn't believe that the proud divine continent could be higher than him. He once again took out the white ancient seal, turned it into a mountain of white bones with monstrous resentment, and suppressed the proud divine continent. The proud divine continent clenched his fist, and the surging power of the saint realm surged out. His cultivation was already at the peak of the third level of the heavenly tribulation realm. He had reached the half-step Holy King realm. And the Devil Bone Old Man was only at the first level of the heavenly tribulation realm. The gap between the two was equally huge. Boom! The proud divine continent simply punched out, and the power of law surged, turning into a vast ocean, flowing across the heavens, shattering the void, and shaking the universe in all directions. Bang! The mountain of white bones was directly shattered by the proud divine continent's punch, and endless resentful souls and bones burst between heaven and earth. Damn it, how is it possible? What realm have you reached? Seeing this, the Devil Bone Old Man's old face was so shocked that it was about to distort. He thought that the proud divine continent was at most only a small realm higher than him. But now it seemed that this was not the case. Could it be that he has reached the Holy King realm? On the other side, the Earth War Emperor and Hua Tianxiong were both shocked. The transcendence of a saint was relative to martial artists below the saint realm. Facing a peerless powerhouse who was very likely to touch the threshold of the Holy King realm. The Earth War Emperor and Hua Tianxiong could no longer maintain that transcendent posture, and their minds were nervous. Chapter 1154. Even the three heavenly tribulation saints were so shocked. Needless to say, the rest of the spectators felt their scalps tingling and their minds buzzing. It could be said that Yi Gu Chen was the only one who remained indifferent among the crowd. He was also the one who knew the realm of the proud divine state best. Half-step Holy King. A powerhouse of this realm, not to mention in the dynasty. Even among the overlord class forces, he would definitely be considered one of the top experts. With the proud divine state, the crisis of the Sword Dynasty could be resolved. On the other side, the proud divine state suppressed the demon bone elder with unparalleled strength, almost one-sided. Puff! The demon bone elder was beaten back again and again, spitting out blood from his mouth. No matter what, he was still a heavenly tribulation saint, and he could hold on for a while. But the result was certain, the demon bone elder would not have a chance to turn the tables. The proud divine state once again punched, simple and direct, but with monstrous power. Blood god puppets! The demon bone elder shouted angrily and summoned 4 blood-red puppets. Each puppet had the strength of the peak of the false saint. Not only that, their bodies were extremely strong, and they could even resist the bombardment of heavenly tribulation saints for a short time. Seeing this, the proud divine state's face was still indifferent. He said lightly, "Lend me your sword." On the other side, Yiguchin understood and waved his hand directly. The 9-dragon thunder prison, which had been completely repaired and transformed into a 10th tribulation divine weapon, broke through the air. The proud divine state caught the sword with one hand. With a sword in hand, the proud divine state's momentum suddenly changed. He was not only the leader of the Sword Dao Alliance, but also the sword maniac. Facing the cold sword alone, why should I be ashamed of the hero of the sword maniac? The power of the proud divine state poured into it. In an instant, the soul of the 9-headed thunder dragon roared out. With the strength of the proud divine state, it could perfectly exert the power of the 9-dragon thunder prison. The soul of the 9-headed thunder dragon formed the real 9-dragon thunder prison, imprisoning the 4 blood god puppets in it, and receiving the bombardment of billions of thunder and lightning sword chi. The blood god puppets were condensed from flesh and blood demonic skills, and they were most afraid of the power of thunder and lightning. So they could not withstand the bombardment of the 9-dragon thunder prison at all. How hateful! The demonic bone old man was unable to express his bitterness. He only felt that he had kicked an iron plate today. Die! The proud divine continent's eyes were cold. The tragic state of the Sword Dynasty made him so angry that he wanted to burn the 9 heavens imperial court. At this moment, it was impossible for him to hold back at all. 8 Extremities Reincarnation Sword Technique, 8 Extremities Reincarnation, Heaven and Earth Annihilation. Proud divine continent raised his sword and displayed his self-created 8 extreme reincarnation sword art. It was the emperor-level sword art that Yiguchin had comprehended in the ancient sword tomb. The 8 extreme reincarnation sword art displayed by the proud divine continent was naturally incomparable to the one displayed by Yiguchin. The difference in power was like heaven and earth. In an instant, Qian, Kuan, Kan, Li, Sun, Zhen, Zhen, Dui. The 8 trigrams were reflected in the void at the same time. Immediately, 8 different types of terrifying sword chi rushed out, as if they were forming a wheel of sword chi that could destroy the world. This sword chi disc traversed through space in an unparalleled manner. Everywhere it passed, a pitch-black spatial rift was left behind. Damn it! Can't my Mola dynasty withdraw? Old man Devil Bone's face was extremely pale. The strength of the proud divine continent far exceeded his expectations. Not to mention him, even if the ruler of the Mola dynasty came, he probably would not gain any advantage. Want to withdraw now? It's too late. Pay with your lives for the heroic souls of the Sword Dynasty who died. The proud divine continent did not hold back in the slightest. The sword chi disc crushed toward Old Man Devil Bone. Old Man Devil Bone naturally would not allow himself to be captured without putting up a fight. He displayed his final move. Saint power gathered all over his body and blasted out a blood-colored palm print. It was like a blood-colored mountain, its might extremely powerful. Then, the 2 moves collided, bursting forth with shocking waves. The clouds in the sky were extinguished, and the earth was fragmented. In this extreme collision, Old Man Devil Bone let out a shrill wail that did not seem like a human voice. The sword chi disc shattered the blood-colored palm print, and then ruthlessly crushed Old Man Devil Bone's body. Is that the true power of the 8 extreme reincarnation sword art? In the distance, Yiguchin, who also cultivated the 8 extreme reincarnation sword art, marveled endlessly. The power of 8 extremes in one was indeed astonishing. Rumble, a huge rumble sounded in the sky. That was the saint's body shattering and disintegrating. Ah! This old man is unwilling. In the middle of the rumble, Old Man Devil Bone let out an unwilling roar. He never would have thought that participating in this battle that he was confident in winning would end up losing his life. If he could do it all over again, Old Man Devil Bone would definitely not dare to come to the Sword Dynasty. But no matter how regretful he was in his heart, the result could not be changed. Old Man Devil Bone had completely fallen. Endless blood surged and exploded, rushing high into the sky. Every drop of blood was sparkling and resplendent, containing the power of a saint. At this moment, it filled the void, dyeing the heavens and earth red. Then, thunder rolled in the sky, and the clouds were dyed red by the blood. A torrential rain began to fall. The fall of a saint, heaven and earth mourned. This scene caused everyone's heart to palpitate. The blood of a saint dyed the heavens red, and what fell from the sky was a rain of blood. At this moment, the millions of martial artists present could not help but turn their gazes to the youth standing indifferently in the sky. Dugu Wubai said that he would let the blood of a saint dye the heavens red. Now, it has come true, when Yiguchin appeared before, he said this. But at that time, no one believed him at all. They even thought that Yiguchin had lost his mind and was arrogant beyond measure, daring to insult a saint. But now, no one dared to underestimate Yiguchin. Great! In the Sword Imperial City, many martial artists had tears in their eyes. Old Man Devil Bone's previous move had killed many Sword Imperial City martial artists. Now, he had finally received his retribution. So what if you are a saint? You dare to slaughter the people of the Sword Dynasty, won't you still be unable to escape death in the end? Lord Mo. All the Sword Imperial City martial artists were excited, and their bodies trembled with excitement. This was their alliance leader. The sword was domineering in the divine continent. Killing a saint with a single sword, dyeing the heavens red for millions of miles. This, in the distance, the Earth War Emperor and Hu Tianxiong, who were fighting with Heavenly Love and Leng Qianhen, felt their hair stand on end when they saw this scene. The strength of the proud divine continent, even if it hasn't truly reached the Saint King realm, it should have touched the threshold. The Earth War Emperor's heart trembled. His strength was one level higher than Old Man Devil Bone and Hu Tianxiong, reaching the second level of the Heavenly Tribulation realm. But even so, it was still impossible for him to be a match for the proud divine continent. Thinking of this, the Earth War Emperor and Hu Tianxiong both had the intention to retreat. As if seeing the intention to retreat in their eyes, Heavenly Love and Leng Qianhen were even more persistent. Next, it's your turn. The proud divine continent killed Old Man Devil Bone with a single sword, but it still had no intention of stopping. He wanted to use this battle to completely intimidate the 100 great dynasties. He wanted to let all the dynasties in the South Horizon region understand. The Sword Dynasty was, and would sit firmly on the number one throne of the 100 great dynasties. The Sword Dynasty could not be humiliated. Chapter 1155. Proud divine state held the 9-dragon thunder prison, like the god of thunder and lightning, the sword Chi accompanied the rolling thunder in the sky. He first swung his sword at Hu Tianxiong. In an instant, the mighty sword light seemed to have turned into a thunder and lightning sword river, with a fierce and peerless posture, fiercely crashed into Hu Tianxiong. Damn it, domineering blade, demon slash. Seeing this, Hu Tianxiong's face also changed drastically. As the overlord of the blade, he was arrogant by nature, but in the face of the more powerful and arrogant proud divine state, Hu Tianxiong's momentum was immediately suppressed. He held the golden scale dragon tooth blade in his hand, and blasted out a terrifying blade light that was 1,000 feet long. There were demon gods' phantoms around him, as if the demon gods were slashing down with the blade. Rumble. The violent shock tore the surrounding space, as if 100 stars exploded at the same time. The fluctuation was so shocking that it made people tremble. Cough. Hu Tianxiong was hit, and directly coughed up blood and flew backward. His realm was the same as the demon Bone Elder, first level of the heavenly tribulation realm. How could he compare to the half-step holy king of the proud divine state? Just as Hu Tianxiong was about to escape, Ling Qianhun's eyes were cold, and the lonely frost sword in his hand struck again, and the surrounding heaven and earth seemed to be frozen, directly blocking Hu Tianxiong's way. Damn it, you want to bully me with more? Hu Tianxiong's face was extremely ugly. When the three of you attacked at the same time, that was not what you said. Ling Qianhun's tone was cold, with a sneer. Do I need to deal with you? Proud divine state activated the power of the half-step holy king, and the sword chi will once again crushed toward Hu Tianxiong. There was no surprise. Under the powerful attack of proud divine state and Ling Qianhun's encirclement, the overlord of the domineering Blade dynasty, Hu Tianxiong, finally fell. Saint blood splattered, and the already bleak blood-red sky was dyed with a thick blood color. The second saint has fallen. Far away from Sword Emperor City, millions of warriors were dead silent. At this moment, there were no words to describe their feelings. Heavenly Tribulation Saint, this kind of top powerhouse that many warriors may never see in their lives. But today, two of them had fallen. The blood of a saint dyed the sky red. Every drop of saint blood created a huge crater in the ground. The last remaining Earth War Emperor's face was as pale as a sheet. He tried his best to break free from the restraints of heavenly sentiment, but heavenly sentiment was firmly entangled with the Earth War monarch. The purpose of heavenly love was to make sure that none of the three heavenly tribulation saints who invaded the Sword dynasty could escape. The proud divine continent turned around and charged towards the Earth War Emperor again. A mysterious and boundless sword Tao spread out from the body of the proud divine continent, like a circle, endless reincarnation. That is, when they sensed this sword intent, all the cultivators present seemed to see the cycle of the 4 seasons and the changes of the world. In particular, some of the martial artists and geniuses who had comprehended sword intent and sword Tao could clearly sense the suppressive power contained within the sword intent displayed by the proud divine continent. Once the sword Tao of the proud divine continent came out, all the other martial artists who had comprehended the sword Tao of the sword Tao were suppressed. However, only 2 people were not suppressed. Instead, they looked at the proud divine continent in astonishment. These 2 people were Jian Jinghong and Yi Guqin. Jian Jinghong, who had the embryonic form of the heavenly Tao sword intent, began to comprehend the heavenly Tao sword intent from birth. After that, if Jian Jinghong transformed the heavenly Tao sword intent into the heavenly Tao sword Tao, his strength would increase by leaps and bounds. As for Yi Guqin, he had comprehended the creation-level sword intent of all creation by himself. The reason why the 2 of them did not have their sword intents suppressed was because their sword intents were at the creation level. Then, it was obvious that the sword Tao displayed by the proud divine continent was also at the creation level. Reincarnation Sword Tao. The proud divine continent swung its sword. The sword light seemed to reflect the cycle of the 4 seasons and the scene of the universe's withering. This was the creation-level sword Tao that the proud divine continent had comprehended, the reincarnation sword Tao. As a top sword Tao expert, how could the proud divine continent not have a sword Tao? Heavens, that's a creation-level sword Tao. Countless martial artists were in an uproar. Many sword cultivators widened their eyes. A creation-level sword Tao was extremely rare. Even in the Sword dynasty, where sword cultivators gathered, Jian Jinghong was the only one who had it. As for Yi Guqin, his sword intent of all creation had not leaked out. If I can completely master the 8 extremities reincarnation sword technique, I wonder if I can get a trace of opportunity to comprehend the reincarnation sword Tao. Yi Guqin suddenly thought. If he could comprehend another creation-level sword Tao, with the creation-level sword Tao superimposed, and then display the ultimate sword domain, how earth-shattering would that power be? Of course, this was just an idea. Yi Guqin thought as he observed the battle situation. The Earth War Emperor held the golden giant axe and struggled to resist. He swung his axe, and the mighty axe light seemed to cut through the sky. But once it encountered the sword light released by the reincarnation sword Tao, the axe light seemed to be weakened layer by layer. The power of reincarnation controlled the prosperity and withering of all things. Once the powerful axe light fell into it, it was eroded and weakened by the power of reincarnation. How is this possible? The Earth War Emperor was shocked. As a heavenly tribulation saint, he had almost forgotten the taste of fear and powerlessness. Now, the Earth War Emperor experienced it again. Die! Without any suspense, the proud divine prefecture killed the Earth War Emperor again. The 3 heavenly tribulation saints of the 3 dynasties had all fallen. For a time, heaven and earth wailed, and blood rained down. The blood of the 3 saints was more than the blood of all those who had fallen before, and it dyed the sky and earth red. Seeing this scene, the people of the 4 aristocratic families and the 3 dynasties were all stupefied. They had a trace of hope in their hearts that perhaps the proud divine prefecture was not that strong. But they were wrong. They were completely wrong. Let's go. Without the slightest hesitation, the people of the 4 aristocratic families and the 3 dynasties rushed into the distance like crazy. The heroic Marquis, who had been full of confidence and regarded the Sword dynasty as a fat piece of meat, was now panicking like a stray dog, and did not want to stay here for even a breath. Can you leave? Looking at the fleeing enemies, the hands of every one of them were stained with the blood of the Sword dynasty. The sword of heavenly affection vibrated, and saint power surged out. Thousands of sword chi rushed out, sweeping away a group of enemies. The lonely frost sword in Ling Qianhen's hand traversed the void, and countless icy sword chi condensed, turning into a rain of icicles that rained down on the fleeing enemies. In an instant, 7 or 8 false saints were killed, as well as a large number of venerables and divine dwelling experts. As for the proud divine prefecture, the 8 extreme reincarnation sword art was displayed, bringing with it the power of reincarnation. The power of a sword turned heaven and earth upside down, and a large number of enemies were killed. It could be said that this was no longer a war, but a massacre. 2 heavenly tribulation saints and a half-step saint king could almost sweep away everything. In the eyes of the 3, false saints were just some larger ants. The Sword dynasty had an absolute and overwhelming advantage. Chapter 1156. It wasn't just proud divine continent, heavenly love, and Ling Qianhen. Confuzi, Wu Hongyan, Jiang Wen, and the others also made their moves. The gates of Sword sovereign city opened, and a large group of Sword dynasty martial artists rushed out with bloodshot eyes. Kill. Avenge our compatriots of Sword dynasty. Kill these sons of bitches. Our Sword dynasty is the #1 dynasty. We're not to be trifled with. Whoever provokes us will die. Previously, when the Sword dynasty was suppressed, many Sword dynasty experts sacrificed themselves and died tragically. It was easy to imagine how angry and depressed the Sword dynasty's martial artists were. But now, they could finally take revenge without any scruples. All of you, die. Jian Jinghong's heavenly Dao sword intent spread out from between his eyebrows and swept out in all directions. Ling Mo Shu, Ling Moyin, Xuanlian, Kong Kong, and the others also made their moves. In order to protect them, Great Elder Imei sacrificed himself. At this moment, they only wanted to vent the hatred and anger in their hearts. Even Mu Xingzhu, Gong Luyue, and the other women, who usually did not like killing, had cold eyes at this moment. They did not show any mercy when they attacked. Watching the Sword dynasty's crazy counterattack, the spectating martial artists in the distance swallowed a mouthful of saliva. If news of today's battle spread, it was easy to imagine how much shock it would cause. They were also very curious how the War God dynasty, Mola dynasty, and tyrannical Saber dynasty would react. But this was a matter for the future. At least for now, the armies of the 4 great families and 3 dynasties had no way to survive. And the key to turning the tide of the battle was a young man whose divine palace was crippled in everyone's eyes. When they thought of this, countless gazes simultaneously landed on the figure standing in the sky. Yi Guchen wore a devil mask and a black robe. His slender figure was tall and slender, and his hands were behind his back. He didn't make a move to slaughter them, but just watched quietly. But in the eyes of outsiders, this scene made them feel that Yiguchen was even more unfathomable. This Jinkue Dugu Wubai of the Sword Dynasty is truly amazing. First, he called the king of monsters of the myriad demons nest to help him. Then, he asked the solitary cloud sword saint to help him. Now, he even found the proud divine continent and brought it out. That's right. The key to this battle isn't heavenly sentiment, Ling Qianhen, or even proud god continent. It's Jinkue and Dugu Wubai. If Yiguchen hadn't asked the divine condor Blackie to summon the king of monsters, the Sword Dynasty wouldn't have been able to hold on for so long. If Yiguchen hadn't left Ling Qianhen as a last resort, the Sword Dynasty wouldn't have been able to hold on. If Yiguchen hadn't entered the heavenless sword realm, the proud divine continent wouldn't have been able to escape. Even the rebellion of the Jiang family had something to do with Yiguchen. Because previously in the imperial treasury, Yiguchen had saved Jiang Fengmian's life with the longevity fruit. This was also the reason why Jiang Wen had made up his mind to rebel. It could be said that the reason why the Sword Dynasty was able to turn defeat into victory was because they had come back from the jaws of death. Yiguchen was a huge factor. How could this be? Meng Churen's pretty face turned pale. She didn't expect that the young man she looked down on would be the most important person to decide the outcome of the Sword Dynasty. Compared to Yiguchen's achievements, Luo Yu's contribution as a spy was nothing. The battle was almost a one-sided slaughter, and it ended very quickly. Outside the Sword Emperor city, corpses were everywhere, and blood flowed like a river. But almost all of them were people from the 4 great families and the 3 great dynasties. Even an expert like the heroic Marshal Marquis, who was at the peak of the false saint realm, had no power to resist in front of a true saint. In the end, he was pierced through the heart by heavenly love, his body exploded, and he died. The dust of the battle had completely settled. The armies of the 4 great families and the 3 great dynasties were completely annihilated. Looking at the mountain of corpses and the scene of blood flowing in front of him, Yiguchen, who was standing in the sky with his hands behind his back, raised a hand and stroked the ghost mask on his face. Jian Shisan, I said that I would use this ghost mask to witness the destruction of the Hua family. Now, I finally did it, Yiguchen murmured, very emotional. Jian Shisan's tragedy was caused by the Hua family. And now, he was wearing the ghost mask to witness the destruction of the 4 great families. Hua Tianyue, on the other hand, turned into a clay statue, kneeling in front of the Sword Emperor city for eternity. Entanglement of gratitude and grudges, life and death, and the impermanence of the world, it was really unpredictable. Only the supreme martial arts could allow people to transcend the fetters of fate, and even dominate fate, and no longer have any regrets. At this moment, Yiguchen's state of mind improved again, and he faintly understood something. His unity of man and sword had improved again, and it seemed that it was not far away from the realm of unity of man and heaven. The battle of the Sword Dynasty had finally come to an end. The 4 great families and the 3 great dynasties' coalition forces were all destroyed. Not a single person escaped. Even Shangguan Jingshan, Yin Zhu, and other geniuses of the aristocratic families were killed by Jian Jinghong and the other sword sons. However, the proud divine continent did not hold back. His gaze turned to Meng Zhen and the others. When he saw the gaze of the proud divine continent, Meng Zhen's whole body trembled, as if he was immersed in ice water. His whole body was cold, and a chill ran up his spine. You, very good, the proud divine continent's tone was extremely cold. He had already learned about what Meng Zhen and the others had done from Yiguchen. The 4 great families and the 3 great dynasties' coalition forces were detestable. But selfish people like Meng Zhen were even more detestable. They could indifferently watch their former companions being slaughtered without the slightest compassion, and even mocked and ridiculed, watching the show from the sidelines. Such people were simply more detestable than the enemy. Alliance leader, this has nothing to do with me, it was Deputy Alliance leader who expelled me, that's why I, Mengzhen's old face turned pale, and he hurriedly opened his mouth to explain. At this point, not only did he not reflect, but he also did not apologize. Instead, he pushed all the blame to Yi Tianqing. The proud divine countenance's eyes were full of coldness and disappointment. He stretched out one hand, and rays of divine light shot out, landing on Meng Zhen and the other 4 pseudo-sages. Alliance leader, please spare our lives. Meng Zhen and the others' faces changed, and they turned around to escape, but how could they escape? Boom! 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 5 consecutive explosions were heard, and Meng Zhen and the other 4 were sent flying. Grandpa! Meng Churen's pretty face turned pale, and her delicate body trembled. Master! Luo Yu was also shocked. Cough, the smoke and dust dispersed, and Meng Zhen and the other 4 pseudo-sages appeared. They were not dead. But, my divine abode is broken, and my meridians are crippled. How? Meng Zhen sensed that his strength as a pseudo-sage had been completely crippled, and his old face changed drastically, howling as if he had lost his mind. Since you were once a member of the Sword Dao Alliance, I have only crippled your cultivation, and you are not allowed to take a step into the Sword Dynasty in the future. And the 2 of you, as the Alliance leader, I have stripped you of your Sword Son status, and you are also not allowed to take a step into the Sword Dynasty in the future. The proud divine countenance's words were cold, and its actions were resolute. Chapter 1157. How could this be? Meng Churen's face was as pale as a sheet. She could barely stand and fell to the ground. Her beautiful eyes were filled with despair. Luo Yu was also stunned. He felt as if his mind had been struck by lightning. His face was pale as if he had lost his support. The 2 of them were once the Sword Sons revered by thousands. In a word, they had become vagrants who could not even step into the Sword Dynasty. Meng Zhen and the others were even more miserable. From a false saint expert, he had become a cripple in a single night. Meng Zhen and the others could not accept this huge difference. They were completely disheartened. Meng Zhen had been criticizing Yi Guqin, saying that a cripple was not qualified to be Jiankui. Now, he had also become a cripple. This might be fate. No. I don't believe it. How could I be a cripple? Meng Zhen's clothes were stained with blood and his hair was messy. He had lost his mind due to the emotional stimulation. He was like an old lunatic. The other 4 false saints were also pounding their chests and stamping their feet. They had completely lost their saint poise. Grandpa, don't leave Churen behind. Meng Churen cried and tugged at Meng Zhen's sleeve. Who are you? Get lost. Meng Zhen shook Meng Churen off and ran away alone. Grandpa. Meng Churen cried out in grief. Endless regret flooded her heart. If she had not targeted Yi Guqin, perhaps things would not have turned out this way. But there were no ifs. Seeing the ending of Meng Zhen and the others, Confuzi and the others all sighed. Humph, serves them right. Wu Hongyan crossed her arms without the slightest sympathy. This was the end of the wicked. Yi Guqin looked indifferent. For people like Meng Zhen, living would only be more painful than death. With these matters resolved, the situation in the Sword Dynasty finally stabilized. At this moment, the millions of martial artists watching from afar were filled with endless shock. The means of the proud divine continent and the others had completely shocked them. Looks like the Sword Dynasty's position as the #1 dynasty is unshakable. Not only that, the 3 great empires have suffered a huge loss this time. I wonder if they will make a big move. That's hard to say. However, the strength of the proud divine continent is too strong. I reckon that he is very close to the legendary Holy King realm. Following the end of the battle, the spectating cultivators also left one after another, sending this shocking news back to their respective empires. In less than a few days, the shocking news of the proud divine continent returning and killing the saints of 3 great dynasties had shaken the 100 great dynasties and even the South Horizon region. In the South Horizon region, how long had it been since a lofty heavenly tribulation saint had fallen? It could be said that this piece of news was like a huge rock being dropped into the ocean, causing huge waves. When the news spread, it was rumored that a heaven-shaking roar came from the war god dynasty. Its might shook the entire dynasty. Some people said that it was the roar of the war god dynasty's heaven battle emperor. But in the end, the war god dynasty didn't make any big moves. It was the same for the Mola dynasty and the tyrant Saber dynasty. One could imagine how much they feared the proud divine continent. Of course, although this battle had ended in the victory of the Sword dynasty. But it didn't mean that the Sword dynasty was the true winner. There would never be a victor in war. The Sword dynasty also paid a huge price. There were only 6 false saints left. There were only a few dozen venerables and lords left. It was completely different from the Sword dynasty at its peak. But there was the proud divine continent, a half-step holy king powerhouse. For the time being, the Sword dynasty didn't have to worry about an invasion and could rest in peace. After the end of the battle, the Sword Emperor city also began to repair. Under the orders of the proud divine continent, the Sword dynasty held a grand ceremony for 3 days to mourn the fallen souls of the Sword dynasty. After 3 days, the entire Sword dynasty also began to slowly recover. Because of the return of the proud divine continent, coupled with the fame of killing 3 saints, countless sword cultivators came to join the Sword dynasty. Among them, there were also many venerables. After passing the assessment, they would become the new lords of the 360 ridges. There were even 7 or 8 false saints who came to join the Sword Dao alliance. After that, the Sword dynasty once again announced the candidates to replace the Sword Sun. Because Luo Yu and Meng Chuan were removed, the positions of 4th Sword and Jian Shi were empty. In the end, after a unanimous vote, Jiang Fengmian became 4th Sword. And the position of Jian Shi was given to Han Lingxian. Han Lingxian broke through to the divine dwelling stage in the battle and also had the strength to be the Sword Sun. At this point, the candidates for the 13 Sword Sons of the Sword dynasty were completely confirmed. And they would also represent the Sword dynasty in the Battle of Heaven's Prides and win glory for the dynasty. As for the criticism of Yi Guqin's divine dwelling being destroyed, no one in the Sword Dao alliance or the entire Sword dynasty mentioned it again. Because people with discerning eyes knew that the reason why the Sword dynasty was able to win the battle was largely because of Yi Guqin. In addition, Yi Tianqing and the proud divine continent admired Yi Guqin. Most likely no one in the Sword Dao alliance was stupid enough to question Yi Guqin. Sword Emperor City, in a magnificent meeting hall. The people of the Sword Dao alliance were all sitting inside. Yi Guqin and the other 13 Sword Sons were also present. Everyone, we were able to win this war because of your bloody battle. Let me give you a toast. The proud divine continent raised his cup. Alliance leader is too polite. The more than 10 false saints around also raised their cups. In addition to Confuzi, Wu Hongyan and the others, the new false saints were also gathered here. By the way, big brother, since you're back, I can leave with peace of mind, Yi Tianqing suddenly said. What? Everyone around was shocked. Wu Hongyan's charming face turned pale, and she bit her red lips. You still can't let go of your obsession? The proud divine continent sighed slightly. Now that I've become a heavenly tribulation saint, I should be qualified to return to that sea and look for her. Yi Tianqing murmured. In this way, our Sword dynasty will lose a saint. A false saint said hesitantly. Now that the Sword dynasty's vitality was greatly damaged, there were many things waiting to be done. The reason why the surrounding dynasties were afraid was because of the 2 powerhouses, the proud divine continent and Yi Tianqing. Now, if Yi Tianqing left, wouldn't the Sword dynasty only have the proud divine continent as its backbone? Thinking of this, everyone present couldn't help but look at a gray-haired man sitting in the seat of honor. It was Ling Qianhen. Ling Qianhen was also invited to this gathering. However, he had been drinking silently and almost didn't say a word. However, everyone present still looked at Ling Qianhen with anticipation. If Ling Qianhen, a new heavenly tribulation saint, could join the Sword Dao alliance, that was undoubtedly the best result for the Sword Dynasty. If the news spread, the other dynasties would be even more afraid to provoke the Sword Dynasty. Chapter 1158. He seemed to have felt everyone's gaze. Ling Qianhen's hand that was holding the wine cup paused for a moment. He said indifferently, "I have no interest in joining any dynasty." Ling Qianhen's words shut everyone's mouths. Ha! Ling Qianhen, you're still the same. Proud Divine Continent shook his head and laughed. He had invited Ling Qianhen before, but Ling Qianhen ignored him. He didn't expect that Ling Qianhen's personality hadn't changed. However, seeing that Ling Qianhen had no interest in joining the Sword Dynasty, some of the false saints present faintly showed disappointment and helplessness. At this time, Yi Guqin said, "Brother Leng, can you listen to me?" Hm. Hearing Yi Guqin's address, some of the new false saints present were surprised and frowned slightly. Ling Qianhen was now a heavenly tribulation saint, and his status was extraordinary. Even if Yi Guqin was the Sword Dynasty's Jinkui, he probably didn't have the qualifications to call Ling Qianhen Brother Leng. In their view, Yi Guqin's address was too unreasonable and rash. However, what surprised those false saints was that Ling Qianhen's face didn't show the slightest displeasure. Instead, he said indifferently, "What do you want to say?" This. Those false saints' eyes were filled with astonishment. Just now, even when facing Proud Divine Continent, Ling Qianhen had an indifferent look. But his attitude towards Yi Guqin was so gentle. Letting Brother Ling join the Sword Dynasty isn't to restrict your freedom. You can be as unrestrained as before, just in name, and when the Sword Dynasty needs help, you can help a little. In addition, everyone has seen the strength of Alliance leader Proud Divine Continent. Brother Leng, if you can exchange pointers with Senior Proud Divine Continent, I'm sure you'll improve a lot. Yi Guqin said slowly. He was just giving a suggestion, not a request. Ling Qianhen's expression changed slightly. The fact that he could become a heavenly tribulation saint was not entirely due to Yi Guqin, but at least part of the reason was because of him. Coupled with the reason Yi Guqin gave, it did make sense. After giving it some thought, Ling Qianhen nodded slightly for Yi Guqin's sake. Sure. Hearing Ling Qianhen agree, many people in the hall were a little surprised. They did not expect Yi Guqin to have the ability to influence Ling Qianhen's decision. The Proud Divine Continent shook his head and mocked, "Haha, the Proud Divine Continent, have less face than a junior." After confirming that Ling Qianhen had joined the Sword Dao Alliance, many people were relieved. After the banquet, everyone prepared to leave. "Jinkui, please stay," Proud Divine Continent said calmly. Yi Guqin stayed. When there was no one around, he asked, "Senior, what's the matter? The news of your divine dwelling's reconstruction hasn't been spread, right?" Proud Divine Continent asked. "No," Yi Guqin said. He would not be so bored as to announce his reconstruction of the flawless divine dwellings because there was no need for that. Moreover, Yi Guqin was not a person who cared so much about reputation. That's good. In this way, you will have the upper hand in the heaven's chosen battlefield. This is your opportunity, Proud Divine Continent said. At the mention of the heaven's chosen battlefield, Yi Guqin's face became a lot more solemn. Since the Saint Origin dynasty, the heaven's chosen battlefield had been prepared. Now more than a year had passed, and the day of the heaven's chosen battlefield was getting closer and closer. However, what Yi Guqin did not understand was what kind of existence the heaven's chosen battlefield was. Was it just set up by the overlord forces to select disciples? Senior, may I ask what kind of existence the heaven's chosen battlefield is? Yi Guqin asked. Proud Divine Continent said, the heaven's chosen battlefield is indeed a grand event for the overlord forces to select disciples. At the same time, the heaven's prides of those forces will also participate because they need to seek opportunities. Seek opportunities? Yi Guqin raised his eyebrows and listened carefully. This opportunity is the opportunity to become a venerable of the heavenly palace, proud divine continent said. A venerable of the heavenly palace. Yi Guqin's eyes narrowed. A venerable of the heavenly palace, in the South Horizon region, although not as high and mighty as a saint of the heavenly tribulation, was still an expert who could walk freely in the South Horizon region. Now Yi Guqin's cultivation was only at the second layer of the divine dwelling, which seemed to be a distance away from the venerable of the heavenly palace. But Yi Guqin's divine dwellings could continue to transform, and after each transformation, his strength would skyrocket. For example, this transformation, Yi Guqin directly jumped to the second layer of the divine dwelling. If the next 3 transformations were successful, Yi Guqin may reach the 7th layer, or even the 8th layer. In that way, he would be very close to the venerable of the heavenly palace. Proud divine continent continued, to participate in the heaven's chosen battlefield, you have to go to the Saint Emperor world in the future. Saint Emperor world? Yi Guqin looked puzzled. What can you think of when you hear this name? Proud divine continent asked. Saint Emperor world. Is it related to the immortal Saint Emperor? Yi Guqin's eyes flashed. Proud divine continent had told him the division of the heavenly tribulation realm before. Heavenly tribulation saint, domain saint king, immortal saint emperor. The name of the Saint Emperor world seemed to be related to the immortal Saint Emperor. Yes, what I can tell you now is that the Saint Emperor world is the small world in the immortal Saint Emperor's body, proud divine continent said. This sentence surprised Yi Guqin. A small world could be formed in a person's body. How powerful was the immortal Saint Emperor? And I can also tell you that the Venerable's opportunity is not the biggest opportunity in the Saint Emperor world, proud divine continent said with a smile. What, even the Venerable's opportunity is not the most precious? Yi Guqin was really surprised this time. What kind of existence was the Saint Emperor world? Even the Venerable's opportunity was not the most rare. At this time, Yi Guqin also understood why all the younger generation in the South Horizon region were rushing to the battlefield of geniuses. Putting other things aside, just the Venerable's opportunity was enough to attract countless geniuses to participate. It could be seen that this time, the battlefield of geniuses would produce a fierce confrontation. I'll tell you so much now. The specific details will be explained to you when the battlefield of geniuses is about to open. The reason why I'm telling you some things now is that I hope you can be prepared. Proud divine continent said earnestly. Senior, don't worry, I will definitely not weaken the reputation of the Sword Dynasty. Yi Guqin said. If Yi Guqin could stand out in the battlefield of geniuses and be chosen by an overlord-level force, the Sword Dynasty would also gain a lot of benefits. Well, it's good that you are confident. You have enough time to cultivate. As for cultivation resources, as long as the Sword Dynasty has it, you can use it. Proud divine continent said. He was also looking forward to Yi Guqin shining in the battlefield of geniuses as Jiankui and making a name for himself. I will not let you down. Yi Guqin cupped his hands. In fact, even if proud divine continent did not remind him, Yi Guqin would not let go of this opportunity. After all, this was his only chance to show the name Yi Guqin to the world again. At that time, he would not have to hide his identity. Everyone would know. He was not only the Jiankui and Dugu Wubai of the Sword Dynasty. He was also the one who fought Gu Xiaoyang and seriously injured Di Haotian, Sword Sect, Yi Guqin. Chapter 1159. In the following days, the Sword Dynasty ushered in a rare period of peace. Without the conflict between the aristocratic families and the unaffiliated cultivators, the entire Sword Dynasty seemed incomparably harmonious. Yi Guqin also left the Sword Emperor city and came to the Sword Tomb to begin his closed-door training. He was going to start preparing for the battlefield of prodigies. Yi Guqin was now at the second firmament of the divine dwelling realm, and with a flawless divine dwelling, he was not weak. But it was not enough. Yi Guqin did not believe that after such a long time, Di Haotian, Huang Qianqiu, Gu Xiaoyang, and the others would not have made any progress. In addition, the battlefield of prodigies was the grand gathering of the entire Nantian region. Among them, there was no lack of one emperor, 4 emperors, 10 young masters, the dragon phoenix list, and other powerful existences. One could imagine how fierce the competition would be. Therefore, Yiguchen did not dare to slack off for a moment. In the center of the sword tomb, Yiguchen sat cross-legged. The battlefield of prodigies is a gathering of heroes. Although I am not weak, I am still far from being able to suppress all the prodigies. Next, I still need to comprehend the Baji reincarnation sword art, ultimate sword domain, sacred sword of Qiankuan, and other supreme techniques. In addition, there is also my clone Duguchilma. If he can break through to the divine dwelling realm in the Azura Blood Road and condense a flawless divine dwelling, then my advantage will be much greater. Yiguchen muttered to himself. He looked into the distance in the direction of the Mola dynasty. He was looking forward to Duguchilma's growth. In that case, Yiguchen would undoubtedly have a powerful helper on the battlefield of prodigies. He was looking forward to joining forces with Duguchilma and even merging into one to fight Dihaoyan. That scene made Yiguchen's blood boil with excitement. Subsequently, Yiguchen immersed himself in cultivation. Mola Dynasty, Heavenly Demon Sect, inside a cave. Duguchilma, dressed in a black robe and white hair, sat cross-legged on the ground. Beside him was a large pile of empty jade bottles. The Azura blood inside had all been refined by Duguchilma. His body could effortlessly absorb a massive amount of Azura blood. In comparison, even if other people could use the Azura blood to cultivate, they would only dare to refine a small bottle at a time. They absolutely wouldn't be as crazy as Dugu. Rumble. It was as if a clap of thunder was heard from Duguchilma's body, as a powerful aura burst out from him. Then, Duguchilmo slowly opened his eyes. His left eye was pitch black and deep, while his right eye was an ancient and mysterious dark golden demonic eye. Peak of the 9th level of the spirit bridge of heaven and earth, Dugu mumbled to himself. During this time, he had completely refined 1,000 bottles of Azura blood into his body. This terrifying power was already enough for Duguchilma to break through to the divine dwelling stage. However, he forcibly suppressed his own realm and maintained it at the peak of the 9th stage of the spirit bridge of heaven and earth. At the same time, he used the remaining Azura blood to temper his battle god demon body. Duguchilma's battle god demon body had reached the 2nd stage, and his physical body had become even stronger. Not only that, Duguchilma could vaguely feel that if he broke through to the divine dwelling stage, his soul-devouring demonic eye would unlock a new ability. Soul Demonic Seed. As the name implied, it was to plant a demonic seed in the enemy's consciousness and soul, and then enslave and control them. It was easy to imagine how powerful this ability was. Therefore, Duguchilma was also looking forward to breaking through to the divine dwelling stage. The soul-devouring demonic eye of the soul-devouring clan is really useful. I must obtain the ability of the soul demonic seed. Therefore, I also need to break through to the divine dwelling stage in the Azura Blood Road. Moreover, my original body has already reconstructed the divine dwelling and reached the 2nd layer of the divine dwelling stage. I can't be a burden. Duguchilma's eyes flashed with determination. At this moment, outside the cave dwelling, a heavenly demon sect disciple bowed and shouted, "Your Highness, the Azura Blood Road is about to open. The Supreme Elder said we can prepare to set off." "I know," Duguchilma said indifferently. In fact, it was reasonable to say that Qingqing should be the one to remind him. But since that night, Qingqing had never come to Duguchilma again, let alone see Duguchilma. "Ah, is it because of what I said?" Duguchilma stood up and shook his head with a sneer. He had previously said that Qingqing should not have excessive feelings for him. It was most likely because of this that Qingqing had become dejected and no longer came. "That's good, it saves me the trouble." Duguchilma walked out of the cave. He didn't mind at all, nor did he care. Let alone Duguchilma, even Yiguchen's original body would not be affected by the feelings between men and women. At this moment, outside the heavenly demon sect, several bone warships were suspended in the void. Many heavenly demon sect disciples were already ready to set off. On the deck of one of the bone warships, a thin old man in a black robe stood indifferently. Demonic chi surged around him, and space was distorted. It was the heavenly demon sect's grand elder, Pei Tuesday. He was also the leader of the heavenly demon sect's team this time. Beside him stood several heavenly demon sect's venerables. TSK, I didn't expect the Sword Dynasty to come back from the jaws of death this time. Yeah, that proud divine continent's strength is too strong. Fortunately, our heavenly demon sect didn't send anyone, or we would have been wiped out. I heard that the reason the battle was turned around was because of the Sword Dynasty's Jinkue and Dugu Wubai. Fortunately, Dugu Wubai's divine palace was destroyed, or he would definitely be a great enemy of our Mola Dynasty's geniuses. I wonder if that Dugu Wubai versus our heavenly demon sect's holy son, Dugu Chuma, who would be stronger? I don't know, but did you notice that Dugu Wubai and our heavenly demon sect's holy son, Dugu Chuma, have the same surname? It's just a coincidence. The heavenly demon sect's venerables chatted casually. On one side of the bone warship, Qingqing stood alone. She had a jade-like face, white teeth, and beautiful lips, but there was a touch of sadness and worry between her brows. She looked like a little resentful wife who had been abandoned. Don't you feel that Saintess Qingqing seems to have changed a little? Saintess Qingqing and Holy Son Dugu wouldn't have had something happen, right? Some of the more attentive heavenly demon sect disciples noticed Qingqing's situation and couldn't help feeling heartbroken. But now, in the heavenly demon sect, no one dared to talk about Dugu Chuma behind his back. At this moment, Dugu Chuma walked out of the mountain gate. Pei Tu laughed heartily when he saw this. Holy Son Dugu, our heavenly demon sect is relying on you for the Azura blood path. Although Qingqing's strength had also broken through to the second divine palace layer, Pei Tu obviously still placed all his hopes on Dugu Chuma. I will naturally do what I said, Dugu Chuma said indifferently. Since the heavenly demon sect had satisfied his request, he wouldn't burn the bridge after crossing the river. That's good, that's good. Pei Tu chuckled. Dugu Chuma stepped into the air and boarded the bone warship. Qingqing bit her lip and didn't say a word. She turned around as if to avoid Dugu Chuma's gaze. Dugu Chuma also didn't say anything. Pei Tu was taken aback when he saw this scene. There is no fairness on the Azura blood path, and there are many people who bully the weak with numbers. I hope you two can help each other. Pei Tu didn't want a conflict between the heavenly demon sect's holy son and Saintess. Dugu Chuma nodded indifferently. Qingqing still didn't say a word, deliberately keeping a distance from Dugu Chuma. Chapter 1160. The opening of the Shura Bloody Road was a huge event in the Mola dynasty. Its influence was equivalent to the Sword Sun Battle of the Sword Dynasty. At that time, the royal family of the Mola dynasty and the 6 major forces would send their prodigies there. In addition to these prodigies, other rogue cultivators, demonic thieves, bandits, and other martial artists from all walks of life would also go. More importantly, their results in the Shura Bloody Road would also affect their ranking on the blood ranking. One could imagine how fierce the competition would be when the Shura Bloody Road opened. Coupled with the valiant folk customs of the Mola dynasty, there would definitely be a bloody and cruel competition. Just as Dugu was about to follow the Sky Demon Sect's team to the Shura Bloody Road, the other major forces and the royal family of the Mola dynasty all set off. Outside the royal palace of the Mola dynasty, a cold and elegant woman stood there indifferently. She didn't wear a dress, and only her important parts were covered with black armor, revealing her snow-white skin. Her gray hair fluttered in the wind. The mask covered half of her pretty face, revealing only her fiery red lips. Coupled with her pale and cold face, she looked cold and charming. This beautiful figure was Princess Luoho. At this moment, a charming and dignified middle-aged woman in a black dress stood beside Princess Luoho. She smiled faintly and said, "Ah Luo, this Shura Bloody Road will choose a suitable husband for you to be the prince consort of the Mola dynasty." This way, if the prodigy battlefield opens, you can take care of him. This beautiful woman was none other than Princess Luoho's birth mother, the demon queen of the Mola dynasty. She was also a top false saint expert. Mother, may I ask how many men in this world are worthy of your daughter? Princess Luoho's expression was still indifferent as she spoke coldly. She didn't think that she could choose a husband on the Shura bloody road. She also didn't think that any man in the Mola dynasty was worthy of her. Oh, not even Yitsangshan, who's ranked first on the blood ranking. The demon queen smiled faintly. Mother, where did he come from? Princess Luoho frowned. She was a little interested in Yitsangshan to be able to suppress her and become the first on the blood ranking. His origin is mysterious. He might be from that world. The demon queen said. What? He has such an identity. Princess Luoho's eyes dimmed. Why? Are you tempted? Asked the infernal queen with a chuckle. Your daughter will personally defeat him, Princess Luoho said indifferently. By the way, there's actually another person on the Azura blood path that you should pay attention to. The Devil Empress said. Mother, are you saying that the new holy son of the heavenly devil sect slaughtered the white-haired sword demon of the 13 cities? Princess Luoho had an indifferent expression. Why? You don't fancy that person? Asked the infernal queen. The people he slaughtered were all nameless people. Even after he killed Yuan Huang and the others, they were nothing more than that, said Princess Luoho. Even Yitsangshan, who was ranked first on the blood ranking, could not move her completely. Not to mention Dugu Chuma, who was only slightly famous. Hee, my daughter sure has good taste. The infernal queen chuckled. However, I'm quite interested in someone. Princess Luoho seemed to have thought of something and couldn't help but lick her red lips with her pink tongue. Oh, who is it? The infernal queen was really surprised this time. Her daughter had always been cold and bloodthirsty. She did not have much emotion. She was actually interested in someone else. That person with the heavenly calamity star destiny, or that person who caused the demon emperor to descend to the 9 heavens, said Princess Luoho. The infernal queen shook her head when she heard that. Daughter, you're thinking too far ahead. Such an unparalleled demon king might not be in the Molo dynasty. There are even rumors that the demon king is a demon Dao prodigy that the demon sect has been hiding. The Molo dynasty was not weak, but it was not on the same level as the demon sect of the 3 major sects. Princess Luoho shook her head when she heard that. She was just thinking about it. She did not think that the unparalleled demon king who caused the phenomenon would be in the Molo dynasty. Afterward, the infernal queen led Princess Luoho and the rest of the Molo dynasty's royal family to the Azura blood path. 2 figures stood on top of a mountain in the mystic demon palace's encampment. One of them was dressed in black and gold armor and a blood-red cloak. His black hair fluttered in the wind, and he exuded a cold and austere aura. He was the strongest heaven pride of the mystic demon palace, Yuan Hua, who ranked 3rd on the blood ranking. He was also Yuan Huang's brother. Beside Yuan Hua stood a strange young man in a blood-red robe. His long hair draped over his shoulders and covered one of his eyes. He was also a heaven pride of the mystic demon palace, Master Hun Demon, who ranked 4th on the blood ranking. He specialized in the Tao of the soul. Master Hun Demon had a strange smile on his face. Yuan Hua, how are you going to kill Dugu Chuma? Yuan Hua's frosty face was devoid of any warmth when he heard this. Although my younger brother is trash, he is still my younger brother no matter what. Since Dugu Chuma does not care about me, then I, Yuan Hua, will let him experience what it means to live a life worse than death. As Yuan Hua's voice faded, a powerful and biting cold chi erupted from his body. He had reached the 4th level of the divine dwelling realm. The same situation occurred in the demonic beast sect and the 6 desire demon sect. Whether it was Shan Yu of the demonic beast sect or Miao Yu of the 6 desire demon sect, they were determined to kill Dugu Chuma with their own hands. It could be said that before the Azura Blood Road opened, Duguchilma had already been targeted from all sides. In another boundary of the Mola dynasty, a woman in a black dress swept a glance over the corpses on the ground and shook her head. It's unwise to provoke one, Her face was covered with a black veil, and her eyes were as clear as water. She was tall and had amazing curves, like a peerless enchantress. Wan opened her hand. In her fair palm was a pitch-black bead that was faintly glowing. It was this bead that allowed Wan to find the Mola dynasty. According to the demonic bead's reminder, the person who caused the demon emperor to descend to the 9th heaven is undoubtedly in the Mola dynasty. The biggest thing in the Mola dynasty recently is the Azura Blood Road. Wan was extremely intelligent. Hundreds of thoughts spun in her mind, and her beautiful eyes flashed. Then, she chuckled softly and her figure flashed in the direction of the Azura Blood Road. I must find the person who caused the Demon Emperor phenomenon. I can't let Yi Yue and Gu Xiaoyang get the upper hand. At the same time, in another boundary, Yi Yue and Gu Xiaoyang's figures streaked across the sky. Are you sure we can meet the person who caused the Demon Emperor phenomenon on the Azura Blood Road? Yi Yue frowned, still somewhat worried. She had to stop Wan from finding the person who caused the Demon Emperor phenomenon. Fairy Yue, don't worry. I can't say for sure, but there's an 80% to 90% chance that I'm right. When the time comes, we'll work together to kill the person who caused the Demon Emperor phenomenon, then suppress the witch, and finally seize the true opportunity on the Azura Blood Road. That way, there'll be no mistakes. Gu Xiaoyang thought deeply and smiled faintly. Yi Yue nodded slightly when she heard this. With her and Gu Xiaoyang's strength, they didn't need to worry about anyone other than the witch. They didn't take the prodigies of the Mola dynasty seriously. Chapter 1161. Just as the entire Molo dynasty was in an uproar because of the Azura Bloody Road. In an unknown small city, the thick smell of blood filled the air. Tens of thousands of creatures in the city had all died. Corpses were piled up like mountains, and blood flowed like rivers. In this hellish scene, a handsome young man in black clothes and black hair sat on a pile of corpses. He was wiping the blood-stained sword in his hand with a white cloth. His appearance was outstanding. His skin was white, and he was very handsome. What was special about him was his eyes. They were black without any white, like 2 obsidian stones. My 6 blasphemy sword formation has finally been refined. The young man smiled faintly. In order to refine the 6 blasphemy sword formation, he had slaughtered 6 cities. It could be said that other than Duguchilma, he was the only ruthless person who had slaughtered so many cities. The handsome young man with black eyes was the mysterious number 1 on the blood ranking, Yi Yue. Sir, it's time for the Azura Bloody Road to open. At this moment, a pale old man slowly descended from the sky and cupped his hands respectfully to the young man. The old man's cultivation had reached the false saint realm. A false saint cupped his hands to Yi Yue. Yi Yue's origin was mysterious. Oh, is that so? The opportunity is finally here. Hearing this, Yi Yue's black eyes glowed. But sir, is the record true? Is that person's inheritance really in the deepest part of the Azura Bloody Road? The old man asked. It can't be wrong. As long as I get that person's inheritance, I'll be able to defeat everyone in the battlefield of geniuses. Other than Di Haotian and a few other geniuses, I won't be afraid of anyone else. Yi Yue's eyes flashed with battle intent. Hearing this, the old man nodded slightly. Then, he took out a flying boat. The 2 of them rowed the boat and headed toward the Azura Bloody Road. The Blood Demon Valley was a special place in the Molo dynasty. It was the entrance to the Azura Bloody Road. The Azura Bloody Road opened once a year. The Azura blood that was passed down among the cultivators of the Molo dynasty came from the Azura Bloody Road. It could be said that the Azura blood was the lifeblood of the Moro dynasty's martial artists. This was also why the Heavenly Devil sect would satisfy all of Dugu's requests and recruit him. The Heavenly Demon sect had already ranked last 4 times. If they ranked last again this time, then they would lose the qualifications to participate in the Azura Blood Road. This was undoubtedly a fatal blow to the Heavenly Demon sect. As time passed, large batches of cultivators gathered outside the Blood Demon stream. Aside from the Mo Luo royal family and the 6 major powers, many itinerant cultivators would also come here to try their luck. But because of the special pressure within the Azura Blood Road, as well as the restrictions imposed by the royal family and the 6 great forces, no one above the divine dwelling stage was allowed to enter. However, even with such restrictions, there were still many people who came to participate. After all, the Mola dynasty had no lack of desperados. If he could make a great fortune in the Azura Blood Road, then he wouldn't have to worry about not having enough Azura blood to cultivate for the next several years. Gradually, the number of martial artists outside the Blood Demon stream increased from a few thousand to over 10,000, and then to 50,000. The number was still increasing. At this moment, various forces began to arrive. The Black Voodoo Cult, the 6 Desire Demon Sect, the Demonic Beast Sect, and the Blood-Clothed Tower. The arrival of each force would cause a wave of exclamations. After all, the Azura Blood Road was the stage for these forces' prodigies. The other martial artists were just there to serve as a foil. On the 6 Desire Demon Sect's ship, a woman swept her gaze and said indifferently, "The Heavenly Demon Sect hasn't arrived yet?" This woman was extremely strange. She was bald and dressed in a monk's robe, like a nun. However, her face was extremely seductive. Her red lips, white teeth, and milky white skin gave her a special allure. This woman was the prodigy of the 6 Desire Demon Sect, ranked 8th on the blood ranking, Miao Yu. Although she was dressed like a nun, she had absorbed the essence of many men and turned them into dried corpses. In another direction, a grey-robed youth laughed and said, "Ha! Miao Yu, you can't hold back anymore." He was Shan Yu of the Demonic Beast Sect, ranked 9th on the blood ranking. Miao Yu heard that Dugu's demonic appearance is devilishly handsome and his body is strong. "I really can't hold back. His body's essence must be very vigorous." Miao Yu stuck out the tip of her tongue and licked her red lips, adding a bit of seductiveness to her. Looking at Miao Yu's appearance, Shan Yu trembled slightly. This Miao Yu was definitely a femme fatale. At this moment, another 2 forces arrived in the distant sky. They were the Mara royal family and the Mystic Demon Palace. On the Mara royal family's side, the Demon Queen and Princess Luo Ho stood at the bow of the ship. The mother and daughter were both cold and beautiful. However, no martial artist dared to look at them directly. The Demon Queen was the wife of the Mara Lord. Naturally, no one dared to look at her directly. Princess Luo Ho wore revealing clothes and was incomparably cold and beautiful. However, no one dared to look at her. This was because there was once a rumor that a prodigy stared at Princess Luo Ho with a burning gaze. His eyes were directly dug out by Princess Luo Ho's fingers, and his cultivation was crippled. Princess Luo Ho's ruthless methods had spread throughout the Mara dynasty. On the Mystic Demon Palace's side, Yuan Hua and Master Hun Demon attracted a lot of attention. As the 3rd and 4th existences on the blood ranking, Yuan Hua and Master Hun Demon could almost do whatever they wanted in the Azura Blood Road if they worked together. As long as they didn't encounter Princess Luo Ho and the other person. Just as everyone was thinking that the mysterious number 1 on the blood ranking was still here. A flying boat came across the sky from afar. Unlike the mighty momentum of the other forces, there were only 2 people standing on this flying boat. It was Yi Tsangshan and the old man. The number 1 on the blood ranking, Yi Tsangshan, is here. Everyone's attention was focused on the handsome young man with black eyes standing on the flying boat. As the number 1 on the blood ranking, there had never been a prodigy who could truly force Yi Tsangshan to use his full strength. The old man beside Yi Tsangshan was also a powerful false saint expert. Without the protection of this false saint expert, Yi Tsangshan wouldn't be a match for the older generation no matter how strong he was. Seeing Yi Tsangshan's arrival, the demon queen couldn't help but smile. Yi Tsangshan, are you interested in being the Mara dynasty's son-in-law? What? Hearing this, the whole place was in an uproar. Many male warriors were unwilling to accept this. The Mara dynasty had the intention to recruit Yi Tsangshan as the son-in-law? I don't mind. It depends on whether the princess is willing or not. Yi Tsangshan chuckled. His status was more than enough for Princess Luoho. It could even be said that the Mara dynasty had benefited from it. Yi Tsangshan, beat me first, Princess Luoho said indifferently. She was indifferent, so it was difficult for her to fall in love with other men. She was only slightly interested in Yi Tsangshan because of his status and background. Hee. It should be difficult for me to find an opponent on the Shura bloody road. Yi Tsangshan smiled indifferently. It wasn't arrogance, but confidence brought about by his strength. Time gradually passed. The bloody light in the Blood Demon Valley illuminated the sky. The Shura bloody road was about to open. What's wrong with the Sky Demon sect? Don't tell me they don't dare to come. It's possible. But if they don't come, they'll still be at the bottom and lose their chance. That's not necessarily true. I heard that the white-haired sword demon who massacred 13 cities joined the Sky Demon sect and became the saint. What do you mean by massacring 13 cities? He only massacred some mediocre warriors. Because the Sky Demon sect hadn't arrived yet, it caused a lot of discussion. Chapter 1162. Regarding Duguchilma, the martial artists of the Moro Empire had different opinions. Some believed that Duguchilma was truly strong, otherwise it would have been impossible for him to kill Yuan Huang and the others. But there were also people who believed that Duguchilma's reputation was greater than his strength. But no matter how everyone discussed, the best way to witness one's strength was naturally on the Azura Blood Road. Therefore, everyone was looking forward to seeing how the white-haired sword demon, who had slaughtered 13 cities, would perform on the Azura Blood Road. Just as everyone was discussing noisily, the team of the Heavenly Demon sect finally arrived. Everyone's gaze immediately fell on the bow of the Heavenly Demon sect's ship, and the figure standing in the wind. Duguchilma was dressed in a black robe, his figure slender and straight, and his long white hair added a bit of desolation to him. On his handsome and charming face, the dark golden demon eye was mysterious and deep. Anyone who glanced at it would feel their heart palpitate slightly. Is that the white-haired sword demon who had slaughtered 13 cities? He does look like that, but isn't his cultivation level a bit too low? Yes, he hasn't even reached the divine dwelling stage, and is only at the 9th level of the Heaven and Earth Spirit Bridge. How did he defeat Yuan Huang and the others? It had to be said that Duguchilma's appearance and temperament were indeed in line with everyone's imagination of the white-haired sword demon. But his cultivation level made everyone feel like their glasses were about to pop out. Not to mention the 3rd or 4th level of the divine dwelling stage. At the very least, he had to break through to the divine dwelling stage. But everyone could feel that Duguchilma's cultivation level was only at the 9th level of the Heaven and Earth Spirit Bridge. This cultivation level was indeed too low for the Heaven Prides ranked at the top of the blood ranking. TSK, is that Duguchilma? He is indeed as cold and charming as the rumors say. He suits my taste. Miaoyu's eyes were watery. Her eyes were also watery. She was already thinking about how to squeeze Duguchilma dry. As for Shanyu, there was a hidden coldness in his eyes. Although he and the dead Zhong Lai of the demonic beast sect were only in the same sect. But no matter what, Duguchilma had slapped the demonic beast sect in the face. Shan Yu naturally wanted revenge. Of course, the one who wanted to kill Dugu the most was naturally Yuanhua from Mystic Demon Palace. As soon as Duguchilma appeared, Yuanhua's killing intent spread out uncontrollably, causing the surrounding space to freeze. What a strong killing intent. It's Yuanhua, Tisk Tsk, Duguchilma is going to be in big trouble in the Azura Blood Road. Sensing Yuanhua's piercingly cold killing intent, everyone present felt a chill in their hearts. Yuan Hua, who was ranked third on the blood ranking, was definitely not someone to be trifled with. Dugu Qiuma glanced at Yuan Hua indifferently. His expression was as indifferent as ever, as if he didn't feel Yuan Hua's killing intent. You do have some guts. Yuan Hua spoke, his killing intent like water. I merely helped your mystic demon palace get rid of some trash, Dugu Qiuma said calmly. Yuan Hua was about to attack but was stopped by Master Han Mo. Once we enter the Azura Blood Road, there will be plenty of opportunities to deal with him, said Master Han Demon. And I, Shan Yu, will also seek justice for Zhong Lai, said Shan Yu. I, Miao Yu, will also take action. Miao Yu smiled charmingly, staring at Dugu Qiuma with blazing eyes. Seeing that the sky prides of the three major forces were jointly targeting Dugu Qiuma, many people present couldn't help but look at him with some pity. Pei Tu's face also darkened. Dugu Qiuma's strength was not weak. But a fierce tiger could not fight against a pack of wolves. When the time came, he might really be surrounded and killed by a group of sky prides. As for Qing Qing on the other side, although she kept a distance from Dugu Qiuma, there was a trace of worry in her eyes, but she didn't show it. At this moment, Dugu Qiuma suddenly noticed the Mara royal family. His gaze fell on Princess Luo Xie. When the heavenly demon sect arrived, the demon queen also took a look at Dugu Qiuma, but she instantly withdrew her gaze and lost interest. She originally thought that perhaps Dugu Qiuma also had a chance to compete for the position of the emperor's son-in-law. But Dugu Qiuma's cultivation, which was not even at the divine dwelling stage, had already made the demon queen completely lose interest in him. Such a person was not worthy of her daughter. What are you looking at? Princess Luo Xie couldn't help scrunching her brows when she saw Dugu Qiuma's gaze fall on her body. No one had ever dared to look at her body so carefully. The people around also looked at Dugu Qiuma in surprise. Didn't he know that no one was allowed to look directly at Princess Luo Xie's body? However, Dugu Qiuma's next words stunned everyone present, and their jaws almost fell to the ground. Although she's not particularly outstanding, she's barely qualified to be my woman. Dugu Qiuma's lips curved into a wicked smile. Dead silence. The tens of thousands of Mara Empire experts present held their breaths. What did they just hear? Princess Luo Xie was barely qualified to be his woman. The demon queen raised her brows. Princess Luo Xie also erupted with murderous intent, her ash-gray hair fluttering in the wind like a female Azura. Even the corner of Pei Tu's eyes twitched, and his face twitched. This boy, how dare he say such words, is he tired of living? Pei Tu felt bitter inside. Dugu Qiuma had many enemies now, including Yuan Hua, Han Mozi, Miao Yu, and Shan Yu. None of them were easy to deal with. But now, he even dared to provoke Princess Luo Xie, who was ranked second on the blood ranking. Qingqing bit her lips when she heard this, and a sour and jealous feeling that she had never felt before spread out in her heart. Princess Luo Xie's icy gaze under the mask turned to Dugu Qiuma. She was not the kind of woman who only cared about appearance. Only a truly talented and capable man could conquer her. Who do you think you are, a heavenly fiend fate holder? Or a demon emperor phenomenon holder? If you're not, then what qualifications do you have to say such words? Princess Luo Xie's tone was icy cold. It was the first time someone had teased her in such a tone. Dugu Qiuma sneered and did not answer. Sorry, he was both a heavenly fiend fate holder and a demon emperor phenomenon holder. However, Dugu Qiuma did not say it out loud, as it was not a good time to expose himself. The reason why Dugu Qiuma said this was not because of Princess Luo Xie herself. It was because he could feel that Princess Luo Xie's Luo Xie fate holder could help him activate the heavenly fiend fate holder. Although Dugu Qiuma had the heavenly fiend fate holder, it did not mean that he could use it. For example, Gu Zun could only unleash his full power after unsealing the 7-kill fate holder. Dugu Qiuma had a feeling that his heavenly fiend fate holder could be activated with the help of the Luo Xie fate holder. At that time, Duguchilma would naturally have another trump card. Looking at Duguchilma, who was targeted by many blood-ranking elites, all the warriors felt that the white-haired sword demon was probably going to die in the Azura Blood Road. Yi Cangxian also glanced at Duguchilma. He vaguely felt that Duguchilma seemed to be hiding something, but he could not find anything when he looked carefully. Interesting, but no one can stop me in the Azura Blood Road, Yi Cangxian muttered in his heart. Among the tens of thousands of warriors, there was a woman in a black dress with a cloak hiding her aura. It was Wichuan. She looked at the sparkling demonic orb in her hand, and a look of surprise flashed across her beautiful eyes. Impossible. Could it be him? This demonic bead could sense the movement of a demon emperor phenomenon holder. Just now, when Duguchilma arrived, this demonic bead had lit up with a resplendent light. What surprised the witch was that if Duguchilma was really a demon emperor phenomenon holder, why was his strength so low? Forget it. When I enter the Azura Blood Road, I will find a way to contact this person. I will understand then. The witch bit her lip. She also understood that Yi Cangyue and Gu Xiaoyang were very likely hiding in the crowd. Therefore, she could not contact Duguchilma now. She could only look for an opportunity in the Azura Blood Road. Chapter 1163. The witch's guess was indeed correct. Yi Cangyue and Gu Xiaoyang were indeed hidden in the crowd. Their figures were also concealed by cloaks, but they didn't attract the attention of others. After all, in a place like the Molo Empire, there were too many experts who hid their identities. At this moment, under the hood, Yi Cangyue's beautiful face was as cold as the moon. She frowned as she looked at Duguchilma in the distance, a look of disgust on her face. He slaughtered 13 cities in a row. I can't believe he's so cold-blooded and ruthless. Yi Cangyue couldn't be considered a saint, but in her opinion, the act of slaughtering an entire city was a little outrageous. Therefore, Yi Cangyue instinctively felt a little disgusted by Duguchilma. But there was also a hint of surprise in her eyes. Because she felt that Duguchilma's face seemed a little familiar, as though she had seen him somewhere before. She wasn't the only one who felt that way. Gu Xiaoyang's eyes were fixed on Duguchilma. He also felt that he had seen Duguchilma somewhere before. But the evil and cold temperament confused Gu Xiaoyang's judgment. Maybe it's an illusion. Gu Xiaoyang shook his head. He didn't associate Duguchilma with Yi Guqin. After all, Yi Guqin was a person who had died a long time ago in his eyes. When we enter the Azura Blood Road, if we encounter him, we should do our best to get rid of him. The sins he has committed are outrageous, Yi Cangyue said indifferently. Of course, a madman who kills without blinking an eye can be easily dealt with. Gu Xiaoyang didn't seem to care. A person who hadn't even reached the divine dwelling stage was indeed no different from an ant in his eyes. While Gu Xiaoyang and Yi Cangyue were secretly sizing up Duguchilma. Duguchilma also vaguely noticed this. After all, he had the talent of the Spirit Devourer clan, and his spiritual perception was extremely sharp. He could detect Gu Xiaoyang and Yi Cangyue's gazes. Who are those two? Their auras feel a little familiar. Duguchilma thought to himself. Shortly after, the corners of his mouth curled into an icy cold arc. There are more and more interesting people. Looks like my god-devouring sword won't lack for nourishment of fresh blood within the Azura Blood Path. With the arrival of the various forces, the Azura Bloody Path was about to begin. The Infernal Queen waved her hand as countless blood-red rocks the size of pigeon eggs scattered and landed in everyone's hands. Dugu also obtained one from Chio Mo. This is, looking at the pigeon egg-sized blood-colored stone in his hand, Dugu raised his eyebrows slightly. The Infernal Queen said, "This is a bloodstone. It is also used to calculate your results. Within the Azura Blood Road, when you kill blood demons or obtain Azura blood, this bloodstone will automatically calculate your points according to your harvest. And this score is also your ranking in the Azura Blood Road." For the younger generation, it will also affect your ranking on the blood ranking. The Devil Queen explained. I see. Duguchilma understood. This bloodstone was a tool to calculate the points. But, what is a blood demon? Duguchilma asked. Hearing this, Pei Tu explained, the blood demon is a kind of creature unique to the Azura blood road. If you want to obtain Azura blood, the most direct way is to kill the blood demon. The blood demon's heart contains Azura blood. Duguchilma nodded. Subsequently, the other Sky Demon sect venerables also patiently explained, afraid that Duguchilma would be at a disadvantage in the Azura blood road. There were usually two ways to obtain Azura blood. One was to kill the blood demon. The other was to find the Azura blood pool. The Azura blood pool was the breeding ground of the blood demon. It contained a large amount of Azura blood. However, the Azura blood pool was very rare. Even if one was found, it would lead to fierce competition. Therefore, for ordinary martial artists, killing the blood demon was the safest way. Pei Tu and the others did not expect Duguchilma to occupy the Azura blood pool. As long as he could safely kill the blood demon and obtain points, it would be enough. Duguchilma nodded slightly, but his eyes flashed with a cold light. He was determined to get the Azura blood pool. After distributing the bloodstones, the various factions and independent martial artists began to enter the Blood Demon Valley. In the Blood Demon Valley, all kinds of plants were blood red. There were also many blood red vines that were like the blood vessels and tendons of a human body. They spread in all directions, giving people a strange feeling. Not long after, Duguchilma saw a blood red door that was 10 feet tall in the deepest part of the Blood Demon Valley. At this moment, a blood-red vortex was faintly forming in the blood-red door. Is this the entrance to the Azura blood road? Duguchilma looked at it. The vortex in the blood-red door only appeared once a year. Therefore, the Azura blood road also opened once a year. Not long after, the blood-red vortex was completely formed. Everyone, you can enter now. The Demon Queen said. The various factions and tens of thousands of martial artists could no longer hold back and swarmed toward the blood-red vortex. Duguchilma's figure flashed as he used so close, yet worlds apart, turning into an afterimage as he flashed toward the blood-red vortex. As she looked at Duguchilma, who didn't pay any attention to her at all, Qingqing bit her jade lips and stomped her jade feet while a feeling of being wronged suddenly arose in her heart. Duguchilma did not care about her at all. In less than a quarter of an hour, all the participating cultivators had entered the Azura blood road. At the same time, the Demon Queen waved her hand again, and a blood-red screen appeared in the air. Tens of thousands of names appeared on the screen. The name of every person who held a bloodstone would appear on it. This way, the Mara royal family and the 6 factions would be able to keep track of the points in real time. Among them, the Sky Demon sect was the most concerned. Pei Tu and the others stared unblinkingly at Duguchilma's name. If Duguchilma's name disappeared from the screen, it meant that he had fallen. Even if he doesn't want to be first, at least he can't be last, Pei Tu and the others murmured in their hearts. However, even they were not optimistic about Duguchilma's chances. The reason for that was because the enemies that Duguchilma had provoked were simply too many and too powerful. The various factions in the outside world were watching the screen, hoping that their geniuses could achieve good results. Within the Azura blood road, Duguchilma appeared on a blood-red plain. Is this the Azura blood road? Duguchilma looked around. The surroundings seemed to be a blood-red world, as if soaked in a layer of blood. It gave off a somewhat oppressive feeling. Whether I can break through to a flawless divine dwelling depends on the opportunities here. Duguchilma did not hesitate. His figure flashed as he began to search for opportunities. Because the martial artists who entered the Azura blood road were randomly teleported, Qingqing and the others from the Sky Demon sect were not by Duguchilma's side. Duguchilma did not mind. He did not belong to the Sky Demon sect. It was just a transaction. Not long after, a mournful scream came from ahead. Duguchilma looked over. That is. Chapter 1164. A cultivator's chest was pierced through by a strange creature. The creature was humanoid and had sharp fangs. It looked like a demon from hell. Its entire body was blood red, and its arms were a pair of sharp blades. The cultivator's chest was pierced through by one of the sharp blades. Is that the blood demon? Duguchilma looked at the strange creature. The blood demon was a creature that was nurtured from the Azura blood pool and was unique to the Azura blood road. Save me. The cultivator was still struggling, spitting out blood as he stretched out his hand in Duguchilma's direction. Duguchilma's face was indifferent. Chi! The blood demon's arms shook, and the sharp blades tore the cultivator in half. Immediately after, tentacles extended from the blood demon's body and sucked the cultivator's corpse dry. This. Duguchilma raised his brows. He finally understood why tens of thousands of cultivators would enter the Azura blood road every time it opened. It turned out that they were not the only ones who treated the blood demon as prey. The blood demon also treated them as food. After sucking the cultivator dry, the blood demon's scarlet eyes turned to Duguchilma. After letting out a shrill scream, the blood demon brandished its pair of sharp blades and charged at Duguchilma at an extremely fast speed. Duguchilma reached out with one hand and used the devouring yuan explosion. A ball of black demonic light erupted, seeming to cause the void to explode. A large blood-red hole immediately appeared on the blood demon's body. However, the blood demon's vitality was extremely tenacious, and it continued to charge at Duguchilma. Duguchilma used the evil yuan puppet again. A wave of black vibrations, accompanied by spirit power, spread out, and cracks appeared in the surrounding ground. The blood demon's body cracked and was on the verge of shattering, but it still stubbornly stabbed at Duguchilma with its sharp blades. This blood demon isn't weak. Duguchilma murmured. The strength of these ordinary blood demons was close to the divine dwelling stage. Coupled with their agile speed and sharp blades, it would be very troublesome for ordinary divine dwelling stage heaven prides. Moreover, Dugu knew that there were more than just ordinary blood demons in the Azura blood road. It was rumored that there were even more powerful elite blood demons and even more powerful golden blood demons. However, the number of blood devils was also extremely small. In the end, Dugu punched the blood demon's head into pieces. He thrust his hand into the bloodseeker's chest and pulled out his heart. Then, he took out a jade bottle and began to collect the Azura blood in his heart. In the end, he managed to fill up a bottle. Only one bottle. Duguchilma frowned, somewhat dissatisfied. He finally understood why the Azura blood was so precious in the Mola dynasty. Killing a blood demon only allowed him to obtain a single bottle of Azura's blood. The harvest was indeed too little. Looks like I need to find even stronger elite blood demons and golden body blood demons, Dugu muttered to himself. Just as he killed a blood demon and obtained a bottle of Azura's blood. The blood stone that he had obtained had also undergone some changes. The number 10 had appeared on it. Killing an ordinary blood demon is worth 10 points. Looking at the number, Duguchilma muttered to himself. In the outside world, Pei 2 and the others were constantly paying attention to the results on the light screen. Seeing the number behind Duguchilma's score change from 0 to 10, they were slightly relieved. At least they could confirm that Duguchilma was safe. Only 10 points. It seems that the strength of this white-haired sword demon who slaughtered 13 cities does not match his fame. On the Mystic Demon Palace's side, Fan Yuan mocked. He had suffered a loss in the Heavenly Demon sect and was extremely aggrieved. Now, he wanted to vent all his anger. Moreover, this time, the false saint powerhouse of the Mystic Demon Palace had also come, so Fan Yuan had no scruples and was not afraid of Pei 2's face darkened. Just as he was about to refute, he saw Yuan Hua and Soul Demon's scores. One of them had more than 200 points, while the other had more than 150 points. At this moment, they were already at the top. In comparison, Mo's 10 points were a bit unsightly. Even Pei Tu could not say anything to refute. He could only put on a sullen face. Seeing this, the demon queen shook her head. She completely removed Mo from the list of prince consort. He was indeed not worthy of Princess Luoho. The major forces in the outside world were paying close attention to the score. And Mo in the Azura Blood Road was looking for blood demons. Mo did not care about those ordinary blood demons. He even felt that it was a waste of time. Therefore, when he occasionally encountered an ordinary blood demon, Mo would just skip it and be too lazy to make a move. As Mo went deeper, he could feel that there seemed to be a thick energy hidden in the deepest part of the Azura Blood Road. Mo was very curious about what that energy was. How was the Azura Blood Road formed? Where did the Azura blood come from? All of this was a mystery for the time being. Just as Mo was thinking in his heart, an ear-piercing scream pulled him back to reality. A blood demon swooped down from the sky. That blood demon was larger than an ordinary blood demon and had a hard blood-colored exoskeleton. In addition, the biggest difference between it and an ordinary blood demon was that it had a pair of blood-colored wings on its back, which allowed it to fly. It was really like a Rakshasa. Elite blood demon. Mo's eyes showed a hint of interest. Finally, a good prey had come. The elite blood demon waved its sharp blade and charged at Mo. Mo used the devouring energy explosion again, and a powerful black demonic light exploded. But the effect this time was not as good as when he was dealing with an ordinary blood demon. The elite blood demon's exoskeleton was too hard and was almost close to a quasi-tribulation divine weapon. Mo used the second round of the battle god demon body and collided with the elite blood demon, immediately raising a cloud of dust. After a round of fighting, Mo had a rough idea of the elite blood demon's strength. It was comparable to a second or third layer divine dwelling heaven pride. Coupled with a hard exoskeleton and extremely fast wings, it was very difficult for heaven prides of the same level to deal with it. In the end, Mo brought out the god-devouring sword and cut the elite blood demon in half. In front of the ancient demon sword, the hard exoskeleton was no different from a piece of paper. Mo also took out its heart and refined more than 10 bottles of Azura blood. Hunting elite blood demons is indeed more cost-effective, Mo said. His score also directly increased by 100 points. The points of an elite blood demon were comparable to 10 ordinary blood demons. Next, Mo continued to search for traces of elite blood demons. He also went deep into the Azura Blood Road. In just a few days, several elite blood demons suddenly appeared in the distance in Mo's field of vision. Why are there several elite blood demons gathered together, could it be? Mo seemed to have thought of something. A small pool appeared in front of him, and the pool was full of sticky blood slurry. That's the Azura blood pool. Chapter 1165. What was the fastest way to obtain a large amount of Azura blood in the Azura Blood Road? Without a doubt, it was to find the Azura blood pool. But generally speaking, there would be some blood demons gathered around the Azura blood pool. Therefore, it was very difficult for a prodigy to occupy a blood pool alone. The Azura blood pool in front of Mo was not very big. It could only be considered a small Azura blood pool, and there were only a few elite blood demons around it. But for Mo, he was extremely lucky to encounter such an opportunity. Many prodigies had entered the Azura Blood Road several times, but they had never encountered a blood pool. Go! Without the slightest hesitation, Mo wielded the God Devourer sword and summoned the battle god demon body. He wanted to end the battle in the fastest way possible. The elite blood demons immediately discovered Mo. Their eyes emitted a cold, bloodthirsty light as they charged toward Mo. Duguchilma poured his chi into the god-devourer sword, and a blood-red sword light tore through the air, sweeping toward the elite blood demons. It was the 13 demon swords, blood kill. Puchi. Blood splattered everywhere. Although the elite blood demons' exoskeletons were tough, they were like paper in front of the sword light of the god-devourer sword. Soon, Duguchilma killed all the elite blood demons. His points were also slowly rising. After extracting the Azura blood from the hearts of the elite blood demons, Duguchilma walked to the edge of the Azura blood pool. The blood pool was about 3 feet wide. It was not very big, but there was definitely a lot of Azura blood in it. Just as Duguchilma was about to collect it, a voice suddenly came from not far away. That's the Azura blood pool. Hearing this voice, Duguchilma frowned slightly. He turned around and looked. A group of people walked over, each with a demonic beast by their side. Only the leader was a gray-robed young man with 2 demonic beasts. These 2 demonic beasts were comparable to the 6th level of the divine dwelling stage. One of them was a human-faced ghost bat, with a white human face pattern on its wings. One of them was a black demon scorpion, its stinger glowing with a faint green light. This gray-robed youth was none other than the genius of the demonic beast sect, Shan Yu, who was ranked 9th on the blood ranking. It's you, Duguchilmo. What a small world. Seeing Dugu begging for help at the edge of the Azura blood pool, the corners of Shan Yu's mouth curled up into a faint smile. He also noticed the corpses of the elite blood demons scattered on the ground. His expression changed slightly as he asked, "Did you kill these?" Duguchilma's face was cold as he looked at Shan Yu. Seeing that Dugu was not saying anything, Shan Yu came to a realization. He shook his head and smiled, "Ha! I'm overthinking things. With your strength, how could you possibly kill off these elite blood demons alone? You must have picked up their loot." Duguchilma's cultivation had yet to reach the divine dwelling stage, so Shan Yu instinctively looked down on him. Although Duguchilma had killed Yuan Huang, Shan Yu knew that his strength was definitely not weaker than Yuan Huang if he added the 2 demonic beasts. Not to mention the dozen or so demonic beast sect disciples beside him. Such a force was simply using a sledgehammer to crack a nut against Duguchilma. While Shan Yu and the others were facing off against Duguchilma, several unaffiliated cultivators also faintly appeared in the surroundings. They were also staring at the Azura blood pool with blazing eyes. Although it was a small Azura blood pool, it was enough to cause a fight and massacre. But after seeing Shan Yu and the other demonic beast sect disciples, these unaffiliated cultivators shrunk their heads. Although opportunities were important, their lives were more important. They did not have the guts to compete with the disciples of the 6 great forces. However, when they saw Duguchilma, who was all alone, a trace of pity appeared in the eyes of those rogue cultivators. Duguchilma's luck is really bad. Yeah, it wasn't easy for him to encounter such a great opportunity, but he ended up colliding with the demonic beast sect. How many breaths do you think Duguchilma can last? I don't think it will be long before he is torn to pieces by the demonic beast sect's demonic beasts. The surrounding rogue cultivators were all discussing animatedly. Kid, do you regret it now? Shan Yu's eyes were playful. In his eyes, Duguchilma was already a turtle in a jar. You really talk a lot of nonsense. Duguchilma's tone was indifferent. His indifferent attitude even made the surrounding unaffiliated cultivators mistakenly think that Shan Yu's side was the weaker side. You're courting death. Go. Shan Yu's face darkened. He did not attack himself, but let the demonic beast sect disciples beside him do it. This was because he believed that Duguchilma was not worthy of him attacking. The dozen or so demonic beast sect disciples all used beast taming techniques. Suddenly, the dozen or so demonic beasts roared and rushed out. Duguchilma tilted his head slightly, and his dark golden soul-devouring demon eye flashed with a cold luster. In an instant, the sea of consciousness of the dozen or so demonic beast sect disciples trembled as if huge waves were set off. Bang! 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 Heads exploded one after another like watermelons, filling the sky with blood-colored fireworks, bringing with it a kind of cruel beauty. In an instant, the dozen or so demonic beast sect disciples were dead, and their headless corpses collapsed on the ground. The dozen or so demonic beasts had lost their restraints and were fleeing in all directions. They had lost their fighting strength. Shan Yu was stunned. Previously, he had heard that Dugu Chilma had a strange demon eye that could kill whoever he stared at. However, he did not believe it at all and thought that the rumors were exaggerated. How could there be such a strange ability in this world? But now, looking at the headless corpses on the ground, Shan Yu's mind went blank. Next, it's your turn. Dugu Chilma looked at Shan Yu. Shan Yu suddenly felt a wave of shock in his mind. But no matter what, he was still a divine-dwelling heaven pride and could not be compared to those disciples. He only felt a sharp pain in his mind. Human-faced ghost bat, black demon scorpion, kill. Enduring the intense pain, Shan Yu activated his beast-taming technique. The human-faced ghost bat and the black demon scorpion turned into two rays of black light and charged toward Dugu Chilma. Dugu Chilma's face was still indifferent. Holding the god-devouring sword in his hand, sword light spread out, and sword shadows appeared one after another at an extremely fast speed. It was the 13 demon swords, vanishing shadow. Puchi. Unsurprisingly, the god-devouring sword directly cut the black demon scorpion in half. The black demon scorpion's hard shell was as fragile as paper in front of the god-devouring sword. How is this possible? Shan Yu's face was as pale as painted. The black demon scorpion's defensive power was extremely astonishing. Ordinary quasi-tribulation divine weapons could not break its shell. But now, it was cut in half by Dugu Chilma's sword. Not only that, Dugu Chilma flipped his hand again, and the blood-red sword light tore through the air. The human-faced ghost bat released a black sound wave, but it could not stop it at all. With a whoosh, the blood-red light flashed, and the human-faced ghost bat was also cut in half. Dead silence, the eyes of the unaffiliated cultivators in the distance were filled with shock. As the saying goes, hearing is false, seeing is believing. Only those who had witnessed Dugu Chilma's strength with their own eyes knew that the legend of the white-haired sword demon who slaughtered 13 cities was absolutely not an exaggeration. Chapter 1166. Everyone's heart was filled with a chill. This chill originated from the white-haired killing god in front of them. Only when they saw it with their own eyes could they truly understand how terrifying the legendary white-haired sword demon was. You're the only one left. Dugu Chilma looked at Shan Yu and revealed a faint smile. However, in Shan Yu's eyes, this smile was like a demonic azura, causing his entire body to turn cold. A chill surged from his spine all the way to his head. You. How is this possible? Shan Yu was unwilling to believe his eyes. Dugu Chilma's strength had far exceeded his expectations. Don't meet me in your next life. Dugu Chilma did not speak nonsense and swept out his sword. Blood splattered everywhere. Shan Yu's head flew up and blood gushed out from his chest like a fountain. Everyone in the distance felt their scalps go numb and their eyes were filled with fear. Dugu Chilma's eyes swept across and a demonic blood light bloomed from his soul-devouring demon eyes. Bang! 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 In the distance, heads exploded one after another, and the bodies of rogue cultivators collapsed to the ground. In order to be able to collect the Azura blood in the Azura blood pool, Dugu Chilma could only kill all the onlookers. To him, this was not a psychological burden at all. After solving some small problems, Dugu Chilma took out a jade bottle and collected all the blood in the Azura blood pool into his origin ring. More than 800 jade bottles were filled to the brim. In addition, Dugu Chilma also plundered the spoils of war from Shan Yu and the others. In the end, he obtained more than 1,000 bottles of Azura blood. Participating in the Azura blood path is indeed the fastest way to obtain Azura blood. Looking at the origin ring full of azure blood, Duguchilma smiled faintly. His bloodstone points also began to skyrocket. It went from a few hundred to 1,000 and reached 1,800. This was also because he had obtained the azure blood pool. Let's continue forward. Duguchilma did not stop walking. In the outside world, the various forces' gazes never left the light screen. A false saint from the demonic beast sect smiled. The results of the demonic beast sect's disciples were very stable. It seemed that they had gathered together. Thinking of this, the demonic beast sect's false sacred beast looked at the sky devil sect. Their scores were all extremely unsightly. Even the saintess of the sky fiend sect, Qingqing, only had 200 to 300 points. As for Duguchilma, he was only, When the demonic beast sect's false sage saw the score behind Dugu's name, he suddenly froze. 1,800? The demonic beast sect's false saint was flabbergasted. He thought his eyes were playing tricks on him. He rubbed his eyes and continued looking. It was still 1,800. At this moment, a demonic beast sect's venerable suddenly cried out, "How could this be? What's going on? Why are you making such a ruckus?" The fake saint of the demonic beast sect said with a sullen face. The supremacy beside him pointed out with a trembling finger. When the fake sage of the demonic beast sect saw this, he nearly fainted. The names of Shan Yu and the other demonic beast sect's disciples turned gray and slowly disappeared. This could only mean one thing. It meant that Shan Yu and the other demonic beast sect's disciples had died. How is this possible? The fake saint of the demonic beast sect roared. The other factions also noticed this and were all astonished. I seem to remember that when Shan Yu and the others' names turned gray, Duguchilma of the Sky Fiend sect score skyrocketed. Could it be? A supremacy murmured. On the Sky Fiend sect's side, Pei Tu, the fake saint, was so excited that his old face trembled slightly. Duguchilma's score directly entered the top 10. This made everyone in the Sky Fiend sect feel like they were dreaming. In the past, no one in the Sky Fiend sect could enter the top 10 on the Azura Blood Road. Perhaps this time, Duguchilma will bring a great surprise to our Sky Fiend sect. Maybe he can enter the top 5. Pei Tu was secretly excited. He didn't dare to think that Duguchilma could get first place. It was already very good for him to enter the top 5. No. How is this possible? How could Shan Yu and the others die in the hands of Duguchilma? The people of the demonic beast sect couldn't believe it. Looking at the experts of the demonic beast sect whose faces had turned green, Pei Tu and the others of the Sky Fiend sect felt refreshed. Could it be that I have misjudged this lad? Even the Devil Queen revealed a look of surprise in her eyes. Duguchilma didn't seem to be as bad as she had imagined. Even so, Duguchilma's performance was nothing in the eyes of the Demon Queen. For example, Yitsangshan, Yuanhua, Princess Luoho, and the others were among the top with more than 2,000 points. Especially Yitsangshan, who had reached 3,000 points. In addition, there were some experts who didn't know who had amazing scores. These three people's performances are really surprising. The Demon Queen and the others noticed that there were 3 unfamiliar names in the top 10. One was Mo, one was Yu, and one was Xingyun. These 3 people's performances were not inferior to Yuanhua, Princess Luoho, and the others. They were even catching up with Yitsangshan, who was ranked first. At this moment, in another area of the Azura Blood Road, there was also a small Azura blood pool. At the edge of this small Azura blood pool, 3 figures were confronting each other. On one side was a warrior who looked like a child with a head full of blood hair. He was Blood Fiend Boy, who was ranked 10th on the blood ranking. He came from the Blood-Clothed Tower, one of the 6 major forces. At this moment, he had a cruel smile on his face. He looked at the 2 figures opposite him and said, "It's your misfortune to compete with me for the Azura blood pool." However, the person opposite him, who was covered in a black cloak, chuckled and said, "How dare you be so presumptuous in front of me? You're courting death." Blood Fiend Boy's eyes were filled with killing intent. As the 10th on the blood ranking, he had a fierce reputation in the Maro dynasty. He had never been looked down upon like this. He threw out a palm, and a blood-red palm print expanded in the wind. It was the blood-clothed tower's unique skill, the bone-melting blood palm. If one was hit by the palm, one's body would turn into minced meat. The strong wind lifted the cloak of the person opposite him. Under the cloak was a handsome young man wearing a starry robe and a starry crown. There was a hint of mockery at the corners of his mouth. He raised his hand, and his genuine chi surged. He had reached the 6th level of the divine dwelling realm. How is this possible? The aura of this cultivation made Blood Fiend Boy's expression change dramatically. Great Luo Star Seal. The handsome young man pinched a seal with one hand, and the power of the stars gathered and turned into a giant silver seal. Its surface was overflowing with light, as if there were stars surging, revealing the mysteries of the stars. The seal blasted out, smashing the blood-red palm print as easily as crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood, and then bombarding Blood Fiend Boy with undiminished momentum. Puchi. Blood Fiend Boy spat out blood wildly, and all the bones in his body were crushed. He was a Heaven's Pride ranked 10th on the blood ranking, but he couldn't withstand a blow from the handsome young man. You're definitely not a Heaven's Pride of the Maro dynasty, you're. Blood Fiend Boy's eyes bulged, and his eyes were bloodshot as he stared at the handsome young man. Then, as if he had thought of something, his eyes were filled with horror and disbelief. No. Impossible, how could you be here? You're one of the top 10 young men. Bang! Before Blood Fiend Boy finished speaking, the handsome young man smashed Blood Fiend Boy's heart meridian with a palm. Yes. I'm young Master Xingyun. Gu Xiaoyang. Chapter 1167. After killing the Blood Fiend Boy, Gu Xiaoyang's face was indifferent. In his view, the heaven prides on the blood ranking of the Mo Luo Empire were indeed no different from ants. As the heaven prides of an overlord force and one of the top 10 young masters, Gu Xiaoyang had the capital to look down on the heaven prides of an empire. He turned to look at the Azura blood pool with a faint smile on his face. I didn't expect there to be such a cultivation treasure in an empire. Moreover, I think the Azura blood should be related to the inheritance of the supreme expert in the deepest part of the Azura blood road. Gu Xiaoyang began to collect the Azura blood. To the side, the other cloaked person also took off her cloak. She was dressed in a moon-white robe, outlining her slender body. Her face was like the moon, cold and beautiful. Her skin was like ice and her bones were like jade. There was a mole at the corner of her left eye, adding a touch of charm to the woman's coldness. It was Yi Tsungyue. She furrowed her brows. Don't forget the main purpose of our entry here. Gu Xiaoyang smiled as he collected the Azura blood. Of course I know. My main purpose is to find the Demon Emperor phenomenon user and prevent the witch from contacting him. Then you still have the time to collect opportunities. Yi Tsungyue's voice was cold. Her main purpose was not to seek opportunities. Gu Xiaoyang still had a faint smile on his face as he said, Fairy Tsungyu, don't worry. I will do my best to assist you. If I'm not wrong, the witch and the demon emperor will definitely head to the depths of the Azura blood road in search of the greatest fortune. We will also search for opportunities along the way and will eventually meet them. At that time, we can easily suppress them with our combined strength. Gu Xiaoyang's face was full of confidence. As one of the top 10 young masters of the South Horizon region, he naturally had his own confidence. Although he had suffered a great loss in the infinite wasteland plains, Gu Xiaoyang was not someone who would be dispirited after encountering a setback. Otherwise, his cultivation would not have reached the powerful 6th layer of the divine dwelling realm. That would be for the best. Yi Tsungyue's face relaxed a little. Killings were happening all the time in the Azura blood road. Between martial artists, between forces, between martial artists and blood demons, there was a conflict. After several days, Duguchioma finally reached the depths of the Azura Blood Road. Along the way, he saw many withered corpses. It was obvious that they had been killed by the Blood Devil. After entering the depths, Duguchioma encountered almost all elite Blood Devils. At this moment, there was another commotion in front of him. Dugu looked over with a demonic gaze. Surprisingly, he found a blood demon. In terms of appearance, the Blood Devil was similar to the elite Blood Devils. The only difference was that their bodies were golden, as if they were made of gold. Their murderous aura was stronger and sharper. Golden Blood Demon. Duguchiomo's eyes narrowed. Among the Blood Devils, the Golden Blood Devil was undoubtedly the strongest. Generally, the top 10 Sky Prides on the blood ranking could only run away when facing the Golden Body Blood Demon alone. The Golden Blood Devil's strength was comparable to a 5th-layer Divine Dwelling expert. What was even more impressive was that the Golden Blood Demon's speed, strength, and toughness far exceeded the Heaven's favorites of the same level. It could be said that some 6th or 7th-layer Divine Dwelling experts would find it very difficult to face them. Finally, I can meet an opponent who can let me fight to my heart's content. There was no fear in Duguchiomo's eyes. Instead, they were burning with a biting cold fighting spirit. With a stomp of his foot, he executed so close, yet worlds apart, and his figure instantly turned into an afterimage. Sky-devouring secret technique. Duguchiomo executed the sky-devouring secret technique, and his cultivation base suddenly broke through the divine dwelling barrier. He broke through 3 realms and reached the 3rd layer of the divine dwelling realm. Battle God Demon Body. He once again activated his physical body technique. Dark demonic runes spread out from under his skin, making his whole body exude a mysterious and powerful demonic aura. With the 2 techniques superimposed together, Duguchiomo's battle strength soared like a geyser. Hiss. The Golden Body Blood Demon hissed and discovered Duguchiomo right away. It flapped its golden wings, turned into a beam of golden light, and collided with Duguchiomo. Boom. Like a collision of meteorites, a vast wave of energy spread out. Duguchiomo summoned the God Devourer sword and swung it out. Sword light split the air. The Golden Body Blood Demon crossed its golden blades to block the attack. There was a clanging sound of metal exploding. 2 deep marks appeared on the Golden Body Blood Demon's blades, but they were not cut off. It's really strong. Duguchiomo was not surprised at all. The Golden Body Blood Demon seemed to be enraged. Its blood-red eyes stared at Duguchiomo, emitting a bloodthirsty cold light. Immediately, the 2 sides engaged in a fierce battle. Duguchiomo executed the 13 demon swords, Blood Kill, and Vanishing Shadow. Sword light swept through the air and tore through the air. The Golden Body Blood Demon's body was strong and powerful. Its sharp blades slashed through the void, producing ear-piercing explosions. Boom! 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 Continuous sounds of collisions could be heard. Duguchiomo fought to his heart's content. There were a few wounds on his body. They were pierced by the sharp blades, but there was no blood flowing out. There was only a black aura. The Golden Body Blood Demon was puzzled. It did not understand why this human's body was so strange. Interesting. Next, let's try this move. Duguchiomo activated his Sea of Consciousness. His genuine energy rose along with his soul power. A pitch-black vortex appeared above his head. It was the secret skill of the Soul Devourer clan, the Great God Devouring skill. A terrifying suction force burst out and pulled half of the Golden Body Blood Demon's body into it. Cracking sounds rang out incessantly. Like a meat grinder, fresh blood and shattered carapace splattered everywhere. The power of the Great God Devouring skill was extremely strong. Hiss! The Golden Body Blood Demon roared crazily. A sharp blade pierced through Duguchiomo's left chest. In order to maintain the stability of the great god-devouring skill, Duguchyo Mo did not retreat. The sharp blade pierced through Duguchyo Mo's chest and pierced through his heart. The golden body blood demon's eyes revealed a trace of cruelty. But what stunned it was that the human in front of it did not have the slightest change in expression. Sorry, my heart is not on the left. Duguchyo Mo smiled coldly. Immediately, he activated the devouring power in his body. The terrifying devouring power began to devour the golden body blood demon's life force. The Azura blood in its heart was also absorbed by Duguchyo Mo. In just a moment, the golden body blood demon was sucked into a shell. Duguchyo Mo's body fell to the ground and coughed twice. The Azura blood of the golden body blood demon flowed in his body. Vaguely, there was a strange power that gradually spread in his dantian. Could it be that the Azura blood of the golden body blood demon is helpful in transforming a flawless divine dwelling? Feeling this strange power, Duguchyo Mo was surprised. Just as he was about to carefully appreciate this power, a surprised and enchanting voice suddenly sounded. Tsk tisk, I'm really lucky. I didn't expect to meet young Master Dugu here. Hearing this voice, Duguchyo Mo's eyes lit up. Chapter 1168. Not far away, a figure appeared. It was a woman dressed like a nun. She wore monk robes, and her skin was milky white and her face was bewitching. There was not a single strand of hair on her head, making her look very strange. However, it added a strange charm to her. It was the prided daughter of the Six Desire Demon sect, Miaoyu. It's you. Duguchyo Mo's eyes deepened. He had just finished off the golden blood demon and had suffered some injuries. Although they were not serious, his battle strength had clearly dropped. He did not expect to run into Miaoyu of the Six Desire Demon sect. Duguchyo Mo was only filled with coldness towards the Six Desire Demon sect. The pink gentleman had also been killed by his original body, Yiguchen. Miaoyu's long and bewitching eyes looked towards the empty shell of the golden blood demon. A trace of astonishment appeared in her eyes as she asked, "This golden body blood demon was killed by young Master Dugu? Does it have anything to do with you?" Duguchyo Mo silently recovered from his injuries. Miaoyu's eyes flashed. "Even if young Master Dugu killed it, I believe young Master Dugu must be seriously injured, right?" "Oh, then what do you want?" Duguchyo Mo narrowed his eyes. His calm demeanor made Miaoyu a little bewildered. Could he not be seriously injured? But how is that possible? Even I would be seriously injured if I faced the golden blood demon. Moreover, his cultivation has yet to reach the divine dwelling stage. Miaoyu pondered. But soon after, a charming smile appeared on her face. "Young Master Dugu, don't worry. Miaoyu has no killing intent towards you." "No killing intent, heh?" Duguchyo Mo sneered. Miaoyu's killing intent had not been any weaker than Shanyu, Yuanhua, and the others outside the Azura Blood Road. "Of course. Young Master Dugu, you must believe me. Miaoyu not only has no intention of dealing with you, but also admires you." Miaoyu's eyes flashed with a bewitching pink light, filled with hunger and charm. She could sense that Duguchyo Mo was exuberant with blood and essence. If I can suck Duguchyo Mo dry, my cultivation will increase by another step. Thinking of this, Miaoyu could no longer hold back. She raised her jade-like hand, and a pink mist enveloped Dugu like a gust of wind. "This is..." Duguchyo Mo was shrouded in the pink mist and was slightly surprised. "Hee, young Master Dugu, this is good stuff. It's called Toppling Wan Inverted Phoenix Powder. Next, let Miaoyu serve young master, and climb to the peak of bliss together." Miaoyu's tone was flirtatious, incomparably flirtatious. The Toppling Wan Inverting Phoenix Powder was a poison of the Six Desires Demon sect. Those who were poisoned would not only be paralyzed, they would also lose their ability to fight. They would also be charmed and manipulated, willingly becoming Miaoyu's furnace. Through this method, Miao Yu had sucked dry the flesh and blood essence of countless men, turning them into skeletons. You're too dirty. Dugu Qiumo's body was paralyzed on the ground, but his expression was as indifferent as ever. He was willing to fulfill Qing Qing's wish because Qing Qing was clean and untainted. And this Miao Yu, who used the method of absorbing men's essence to cultivate, indeed made Dugu Qiumo extremely disgusted. Hearing Dugu Qiumo's words, the seductive smile on Miao Yu's face faded, and it turned into a touch of coldness. What she hated the most was others saying that her body was dirty. Dugu Qiumo, I originally wanted to keep you alive and play with you slowly in the future. But now, I've changed my mind. I want to turn you into a dried corpse. Miao Yu slowly approached Dugu Qiumo. As she walked, she took off her monk robe, revealing her white and plump body. How is it? Is my body beautiful? Miao Yu's eyes shone with pink light, and together with the toppling one inverted phoenix powder, she tried to confuse Dugu Qiumo and control his mind. Sorry, it's still disgusting. At this time, Dugu Qiumo suddenly exploded, and one of his hands reached out, directly choking Miao Yu's neck. Miao Yu's long and narrow eyes widened, and her seductive face was filled with extreme disbelief. How can this be? Miao Yu couldn't believe it. This scene was beyond her expectations. Not to mention that Dugu Qiumo's strength was damaged, he was also poisoned by the toppling one inverted phoenix powder. Logically speaking, he should be paralyzed and unable to fight. It was also because of this that Miao Yu let down her guard. It seems that your poison is useless against me. Dugu Qiumo revealed a cold smile. Dugu Qiumo had a pure demon body, and was naturally immune to most poisons. When Dugu Qiumo first came to the Moro dynasty, Madame Black Scorpion's poison also had no effect on him. This was also one of Dugu Qiumo's hidden advantages. No. Young Master Dugu, please spare me. I can do anything, and I don't mind being a slave or a maid. Miao Yu was really panicking, and her seductive face was now ghastly pale. She never thought that the toppling one inverted phoenix powder would have no effect on Dugu Qiumo. You're an eyesore even if you're a maid. Dugu Qiumo exerted force with his palm, and with a crack, Miao Yu's neck snapped. The proud daughter of the Six Desires demon sect had fallen. Dugu Qiumo immediately searched Miao Yu's origin ring and obtained more than 400 bottles of Azura blood. Although it wasn't much, it wasn't little either. Dugu Qiumo's points finally broke through the 2,000 mark, reaching 2,400. At the same time, a huge commotion broke out outside the Azura Blood Road. The Demon Queen, the 6 major forces, and the other martial artists who were paying attention all stared at the blood-red light screen. The name of the 6 Desire Demon sects Miao Yu slowly turned gray. As for Dugu Qiumo's points, it increased explosively again, reaching the 7th place. Seeing this scene, anyone could guess that it was Dugu Qiumo who had killed Miao Yu. That was why his points had increased so much in such a short period of time. How could this be? The faces of the 6 Desires demon sect's false saints and venerables turned ashen. Their gazes almost pierced through Pei Tu and the others of the Sky Demon sect. Pei Tu and the others were also stunned. Dugu Qiumo had surprised them again and again. First, he killed Shan Yu of the Beast Demon sect, and now he killed Miao Yu of the 6 Desires demon sect. Could it be Yuan Hua and Soul Demon of the Mystic Demon Palace next? Many people looked at the Mystic Demon Palace. Fan Yuan of the Mystic Demon Palace snorted and said, the 2 supreme talents of the Mystic Demon Palace are ranked 3rd and 4th on the blood ranking. How could Dugu Qiumo be a match for them? Hearing these words, everyone present slightly nodded their heads. Miao Yu and Shan Yu weren't weak, but they weren't the best. They were only ranked 8th and 9th on the blood ranking. Yuan Hua and Soul Demon were ranked 3rd and 4th on the blood ranking. Their strength was 1 level lower. Even Pei Tu didn't like the Mystic Demon Palace, but he didn't refute. This was the truth. Yuanhua and Soul Demon could be said to be the strongest supreme talents of the Mola dynasty besides Yitsangshan and Princess Luoho. Duguqiu Mo wasn't weak, but in the eyes of everyone, he couldn't be compared with Yuanhua and the others. Just as the outside world was discussing about Duguqiu Mo. In the Azura Blood Road, Duguqiu Mo had really gone deep into the Azura Blood Road. Here, danger was everywhere. Of course, the opportunities were also more abundant. There seemed to be the sound of fighting and the sound of surging tides coming from the front. That's... Duguqiu Mo's eyes lit up. Chapter 1169. A vast blood-colored lake appeared in his field of vision. It was an Azura blood pool. However, it was much larger than the small Azura blood pool that Dugu had encountered before. It was a medium-sized Azura blood pool. A small Azura blood pool was extremely rare. A medium-sized Azura blood pool was even rarer. As for a large Azura blood pool, it was said that there was only one in the deepest part of the Azura blood path. However, that place was also extremely dangerous. A small Azura blood pool allowed me to collect more than 800 bottles of Azura blood. This medium-sized Azura blood pool should be able to collect at least 2,000 bottles of Azura blood in one go. A dark light flashed in Dugu's eyes. At this moment, the sound of fighting and collisions could be heard incessantly at the edge of the Azura blood pool. Dugu looked over and saw that the leader was Princess Luoho. She led more than 30 prodigies from the Mara royal family to fight the blood demons at the edge of the Azura blood pool. There were a total of 3 golden body blood demons and 10 elite blood demons. Compared to the small Azura blood pool that Dugu had encountered before, the blood demons at the edge of the medium-sized Azura blood pool were much stronger. The golden body blood demons were extremely powerful. Even Dugu found it difficult to deal with them. Although Princess Luoho was not weak, it was difficult for her to fight against 3 golden body blood demons. Although there were more than 30 prodigies supporting her, their strength did not pose much of a threat to the golden body blood demons. They could only hold back the elite blood demons. Princess Luoho held the scythe of the god of death in her hand as she battled a golden blood demon. The other 2 golden blood demons acted as if they were unstoppable as they massacred the geniuses of the Mara royal family. Damn it! Princess Luoho's cold and beautiful face turned ugly when she saw this. She had underestimated the strength of the golden body blood demons. As time passed, the Mara royal family's prodigies were killed by the golden body blood demons one after another. Not long after, only a dozen or so prodigies were left. In the dark, Duguqiu had some thoughts when he saw this. If I were alone, it would be difficult for me to deal with 3 golden body blood fiends at the same time. Furthermore, Princess Luoho possesses the Luoho life providence. She might be of help to me in activating the heaven ferocious life providence. Duguqiu Mo was not a kind-hearted person. He was not fated to see injustice on the road. However, at that moment, he was also pondering whether or not he should make a move. Firstly, Duguqiu Mo alone would not be able to deal with the 3 golden body blood demons. Only by working together with Princess Luoho would they be able to succeed. Secondly, Princess Luoho's Luoho life providence might be helpful to him. Therefore, Dugu could not watch helplessly as Princess Luoho perished. She still had something he could use. Thinking of this, Duguqiu no longer hesitated and revealed himself. Princess Luoxia noticed it immediately. She was just about to open her mouth and ask this person who had suddenly appeared to help deal with the golden body blood demon. However, from the corner of his eye, he discovered that it was Duguqiu. Why are you here? Princess Luoho's expression turned even uglier. Of all the people who came, it had to be Duguqiu, who she was a little disgusted with and who had once taken liberties with her. It seems that your highness does not welcome me. Duguqiu said indifferently. Duguqiu, if you dare to take advantage of me behind my back, I will not let you off. Princess Luoho's voice was cold and filled with killing intent. She was famous for her killing, and her personality was also cold and bloodthirsty. To a certain extent, she was somewhat similar to Duguchuma. "Ha! Princess Luoho, do you still have the strength to threaten me?" Duguchuma smiled nonchalantly. Princess Luoho's face darkened. The current situation was indeed not good for her. Duguchuma said, "Princess Luoho, I have a suggestion. In the current situation, you can't deal with the 3 golden body blood demons. I can help." "You?" Princess Luoho was indifferent. Someone who had not even reached the divine dwelling stage, what qualifications did he have to deal with the golden body blood demons? Duguchuma was not angry and said indifferently, "My strength may not enter your eyes, but I have killed a golden body blood demon." "What, you killed a golden body blood demon?" Princess Luoho's eyes flashed with surprise. The golden body blood demon was very powerful and comparable to the 5th layer of the divine dwelling stage. Duguchuma had not even reached the divine dwelling stage, so how could he have killed a golden body blood demon? But Duguchuma's expression was very calm and did not seem to be lying. Princess Luoho hesitated for a moment and said, "Your request." She did not care whether Duguchuma was telling the truth or not, but as long as he joined in, even if it meant sharing some of the pressure. "I want half of this medium-sized Azura blood pool," Duguchuma said indifferently. "What, that's impossible." Princess Luoho was furious. The medium-sized Azura blood pool was at least equivalent to 2,000 bottles of Azura blood, or even more. Duguchuma wanted half of it. He was definitely asking for too much. Princess Luoho would never agree. "Is that so? What a pity." Duguchuma shook his head and stood indifferently. Princess Luoho ground her silver teeth hatefully. Given her cold and bloodthirsty personality, if not for the golden body blood demon holding her back, she would have slashed Duguchuma with her scythe. Right at this moment, another figure appeared in the distance. He sensed the fluctuations of the battle and flew over. The newcomer was a figure wearing a black robe and a black hood. He held a white bone staff in his hand. It was the godson of the Heaven Divination sect. The Heaven Divination sect's godson had also appeared in the Sacred Dynasty's inheritance. "Your Highness." The Heaven Divination sect's godson said in surprise when he saw Princess Luoho in danger. He had always admired Princess Luoho in his heart, but because of Princess Luoho's cold personality and reputation, he had never shown it. "Heaven Divination sect's godson, come help this princess." Princess Luoho breathed a sigh of relief when she saw the Heaven Divination sect's godson. Although the Heaven Divination sect's godson was not extremely strong, he was not much weaker than her. If the Heaven Divination sect's godson was willing to help, the situation would be much better. "Princess Luoho, there is no need to worry. I will take action now," the Heaven Divination sect's godson said. The Heaven Divination sect's godson naturally would not miss this opportunity to get closer to Princess Luoho. However, just as the Heaven Divination sect's godson was about to take action, a figure suddenly flashed and blocked in front of him. "I advise you not to meddle in other people's business." Duguchuma crossed his arms in front of his chest, his white hair fluttering in the wind. His tone was cold and chilling. If the Heaven Divination sect's godson took action, how could he obtain the resources of the Azura blood pool? "Duguchuma, you." Princess Luoho clenched her teeth, her plump breasts heaving up and down. She was so angry that she almost vomited blood. It was one thing for Duguchuma to watch from the sidelines, but he even stopped the Heaven Divination sect's godson from taking action. This drove Princess Luoho mad, and she wanted nothing more than to hack Duguchuma to death with her scythe. "Duguchuma, you dare to block my path?" The Heaven Divination sect's godson sneered. Only those in the outside world knew that Duguchuma had killed Shan Yu and Miao Yu. Those in the Azura blood path naturally had no idea. Thus, the Heaven Divination sect's godson had no idea how strong Duguchuma was. You're tuning into the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.